This is Dave Tate from Elite FTS. Last year, we partnered with Ken Kanakin to co-host the Swiss Symposium. It's built on hypertrophy and sport medicine for strength athletes and practitioners to come together in one place, which will be the Columbus Hilton at Easton. You are going to learn how to level up your training based upon the success and failures of others. You have to stay on top of your game if you want to be able to make the success and move forward at the pace that you want. Just to name a few of the presenters that will be presenting, we're going to have Matt Winning, Brian Carroll, Eric Serrano, Jim Wendler. That's just a few. These experts will be presenting on low back injury and prevention, exercise selection, as well as a business, steroid recovery, and restoration panel. If you want to network with one of the experts that we have presenting, we're going to have people there to be able to help you do that. To register for the Swiss Symposium, go to the elitefts.com website, look for the banner on the homepage, click that, we'll see you there. One of the ways that you can support the podcast is by purchasing or picking up our limited edition apparel. The shirt that I have on right now is one of the only shirts that we brought back for a second time. Normally we'll never do that, but the only reason we brought this one back for a second time is it sold out within 6 hours. So we brought this one back. We also got a second one that we just dropped. It's our, I guess, just Halloween edition shirt. Go to elitefts.com or go to the link in the description. This really does help us out because this directly supports the Table Talk podcast. Thank you guys. Enjoy the show.
Today's episode is brought to you by elitefts.com. Founded in 1998 with the primary aim to live, learn, and pass on. Please help Elite FTS support this mission by smashing the like button, leaving a comment, sharing with a friend, and thinking of us for your training needs. If you can put it in a gym bag or load weights on it, Elite FTS has it.
What's going on? I'm Dave Tate. We are broadcasting from the middle of the Elite FTS weight room, where the underground still thrives and you're part of the crew. It's time to sit down, keep it real, and cut the bullshit. Welcome to Table Talk. All right, before we start, guys, if training, nutrition, recovery, and therapy is either your profession or passion, the Swiss Symposium is happening at the end of the month in October, because this is not October yet, but we're getting close to October. So it's the end of the month in October. Register now because the networking and the education that you're going to get at Swiss is unparalleled. We also have about 50% of the spots available for our VIP, and that's the Sunday after Swiss out here at the Elite FTS compound. Limited number of attendants. You get to train out here. We're going to have barbecue out here. I call it barbecue and bullshitting. So barbecue and bullshitting. Dr. Ken Kanakin is going to do an assessment on everybody. You're going to get a lifetime membership to the Table Talk crew Discord. And you're also going to have access to every Swiss Symposium online archive that's available. So either head over to elitefts.com or hit the link in the description and we'll see you at the end of the month. My guests today are, I don't know how to introduce. I don't know if I introduce you guys as just like Massenomics, or if I say if it's, Tanner and Tommy, or your full name. So we're just going to say Tanner and Tommy from Massenomics. If you don't know who they are, then you're an idiot. So we're going to talk about their impact in the industry, their podcasting. Their business is essentially apparel, podcasting, content. Actually, I'm going to change that. Apparel, podcasting, community, and then content. And I put community up there because your Discord and your community with your members, you got a loyal following of, I don't even know what you call them, Massenomic?
we don't have like
Massenomians?
Yeah, that's good. We beggars won't be choosers. We'll take whatever we get.
Yeah. No, we got to come up with a name for that. So Mastonians?
That works too.
Well, yeah, they unpaid interns is what they go by a lot of times.
We're going to get to that here in a minute, right? So, and so I also want to put out there that you're very close to 400. podcast, so I've been podcasting for a long time, podcasting before it was popular to podcast, because now everybody has a podcast.
Yep.
So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk a little bit about the gym. We're going to talk about the apparel business. We're going to talk about some guests, that you've had, mutual guests that we've had.
Yep.
You see if they're lying to you or lying to me. And we're going to have some fun with that. But I can't start this without doing this thing that I've never done before, but it's called overrated and underrated, right?
Dave, you did come prepared.
I'm prepared. I'm prepared. I got a list here, right? So we're going to start, and some of this list came from our Discord too.
Okay.
So there were a couple, I'm like, I don't know what that means. So I left that one off, but I will tell you this. I'm an outlier when it comes to the shorts, but now I understand the shorts,
okay.
right?
Yep,
Which
yep,
is
yep.
funny. So my recommendation is yes, put them on the site for like $2,000, right? And definitely keep them there. And I like the idea of having the discount code that makes it more expensive.
Yep.
But I also understand how extensions work.
There's easier said than done.
Yeah, I don't know how you would do that. It would be that would be what you would call in the e-commerce industry as a bug.
Yeah. It's like people would think there's no reason for that to exist.
Oh yeah, and if it happened, you'd be like, "Oh shit!" Yeah. You imagine that? Yeah. You send the email blast out, you post the social media post, and then all your customers are like, "Man, wait a minute, this is adding 40%."
Some of our customers wouldn't be caught off guard with that. They've been around long enough with our company.
And some would take pride in using the coupon as well. Like people would use
be like, I will pay more
right.
just for the joke.
Yeah.
All right, the first thing that I have is jorts.
Yes.
And here's the deal. Here's the rules. You have to pick one.
Yeah. So riding the line is not allowed? Is that
Yeah, we know the rules pretty well of overrated, underrated. And this is an important distinction on overrated, underrated for those listening that haven't played along before. It's not, do I like it or do I not like it? That's a different game. Overrated, underrated, to me, and we give everyone we talk to, we give them their druthers to decide what they think it means. But what I think it means, it doesn't mean, do I like it, do I dislike it? It means, what's the public perception of it?
You got to factor in, how the public sees it.
And do I think compared to that, it's being overrated or underrated?
Yeah.
That's how I play overrated, underrated. That's like the second level of the game to me. The base level is, do I like it? Yeah, I like it, so it's underrated.
Bryce just did this with me for, not on the podcast, but it was for extra content. He's going to post.
Yeah.
And because you guys did it, and it when you first hit with it and you don't know what this is, it's hard to process.
Yeah.
So the way that we figured it up is 49%. If you make it into percents, 49 would be the underrated, 51. So you can kind of ride the line, but you have to choose.
Yeah,
if it's 51, you have to choose. So we're going to fall back to jorts.
I think jorts are underrated. They are, I will give it, they are going through a resurgence at the moment. And this answer could be different a year from now. But as of right now, I'm going to say they're underrated.
Yeah, I guess fashion is pretty much, it is a trend business, right? And so I kind of agree with what you're saying. What I would wonder, Dave, you're older than we are. You've been through more fashion trends. Was there a time prior in your life when jorts were very popular? Like, were you ever a jorts wearer in an earlier era?
No.
I
mean,
no jorts in the gym?
The only time that would ever have been a thing is when kind of like sweatpants shorts. Right?
Yeah.
You can't afford shit. So summer comes and you just cut off the pants that you had and you hope that you can afford longer pants when it gets cold again. Where jeans, if you want to call it jeans or whatever, for me personally, there was a long stretch of time I couldn't wear them because you didn't have the stretchy material. So it's like, fuck it, they're all out of it anyhow. So there could have been a time that was in there where now the cargo shorts should always be
you got the pockets
there, right? It should always be there. It doesn't matter. I mean, with Wendler, it didn't never matter. It's always come and go. But they faded away for a while and need to come back.
I think they are though. Baggy's coming back. So I think cargo shorts will be here in style.
But here's the pushback on the jorts for you.
And I would, for the record, I would also say underrated too. I mean, it's not a home run underrated, but I do think we're still sitting at underrated today.
Would you wear them?
We sell them, so I wear.
We got some.
Oh, you sell them?
Yeah, we
Okay.
sell them, so I wear.
I guess my research sucked on that one.
Denim jorts, camo jorts.
Yeah.
Do you really?
Yeah, and they're very stretchy.
Yeah, denim
Okay,
technology's
they're-
come a long
so
ways in the last 10 years. So.
We've got people that squat and deadlift in them all the. They're actually, I mean, some joking aside, for lifting in them, I kind of like them in a weird way with ours, the way that they stretch. You know, it feels good to squat in them.
If they weren't denim patterned, you just think they're spandex shorts.
Right.
Two questions with this is how did you guesstimate the length, right? Because normally if you're really going to be a jort guy, you're going to make the jorts yourself. And most of the time you fuck it up, right? 'Cause you measure wrong and one's longer than the other one and they end up being like throwaways.
And to be fair, that's probably real jorts.
Yeah.
When you make them yourself,
yeah.
that's what jorts really are. At
Yeah.
the, you know.
The easy answer here is we had a manufacturing partner that knew exactly what to
Right.
do. So we said, go. And they said, here's jorts.
Yeah.
Interesting. So they're flying off the shelf right now. So people need to head over to Massenomics and get the jorts before they sell out.
Kind of joking aside here again, jorts might be one of our most popular things.
Yeah.
We had, when they first came out, we had a hard time keeping those things in stock. We couldn't
Really?
They'd go out of stock, and then the manufacturer couldn't get them again. And then when we did, they'd be gone.
That's what we should have brought. Dave.
I gotta make a note.
Yeah, we really should have brought you a pair.
Buy
I could see you wearing the camo jorts.
Yes.
Massenomics.
You might want camo.
Do you actually call them jorts?
Yeah.
I'm sure you do. Jorts. Wow.
Yeah. People love them.
They do. They do. There's guys that they get them, and they do. They do all their workouts in them.
Interesting. Whereas now, are they cuffed or are they like?
No,
they're frayed at the bottom. They're just frayed.
And a lot of guys they'll cut them shorter.
They'll cut them
too.
shorter.
Ours
are somewhat long.
They hit just above the knee. A lot of guys will cut them shorter. Sometimes girls get them and they cut them really short. So
that makes sense. So if you're going to screw up, go too long.
Yeah.
One thing I found interesting is just from the blank side, with apparel.
Oh God, yeah.
Is for years I was just looking for the frayed cut off sweatpants. Right?
Yeah.
It was not easy. I don't think I ever did find them. It's like you'd have to find the person that's like, well, I can do it, but I'm going to have to cut them all for you.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, I think we could probably do that, based upon selling 3.
Yeah, we got a pair of scissors
to be able to cut that. And that would be an exclusive option, right? Because if you're cutting it yourself, take a marker.
We call that the South Dakota cut.
Dakota
if you want us to cut it, if you want us to cut it yourself.
See, I was going to say where you're from, but there's too many things in there.
You just start on the left side and you bring it all the way around.
And bring it around. Take it around.
So the train had to bring you in.
So we are what you're alluding to. We say we're from Western Northeast South Dakota.
Yeah.
That's does actually, if you bust out the map, that does pretty accurately pinpoint where we're located in Aberdeen, South Dakota.
All right. So outside of like Walmart, like what do you have in your town?
You named it.
No, Massenomics gym.
Right.
It's
but Aberdeen, is that what you said? Aberdeen.
Yeah.
That's like 200 miles away, right, from you. How far away is that for you?
I live in Sioux Falls.
He lives in Sioux Falls, and I live in Aberdeen.
Yeah, and so it's 200 miles. It takes about 3 hours to get there.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I had lived in Aberdeen.
So it takes you 3 hours to get to civilization.
Yeah. That's
awesome.
Western Northeast South Dakota is you can either go to Fargo or you can go to Sioux Falls. Both are a 3-hour drive to.
Yeah.
When we're coming here, we talked to your crew. There's the point that this is in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
We laughed on the way pulling up here. We're like,
your
middle of
definition
nowhere. This is like a town the whole way.
Yeah,
like,
your definition of the middle of nowhere is so different than ours. A long gravel road. We're like, I don't know. I think that's a small driveway. Like our scale is way different.
Yeah. Where it's I say it's it's small, but I'm 30 minutes from Columbus. I just don't go. Right. So I kind of act like this is, but
the interstate is
what you're telling me
away?
is like London, Ohio is bigger.
Well, I don't know if London's bigger, but the area's busier.
It's more densely. It's a lot denser population. There's just more stuff. You'll go
because we have like 2 main roads.
Yeah. In Western Northeast South Dakota, though, once you get out of town, you kind of go. It's kind of not a joke where you say you go a couple hundred miles to civilization. It's sort of true. And we're very much in the prairie. There's few trees. It's flatland. You see for, miles. Tens of miles, and it's just
nothing.
It kind of has a feel of, I was also remarking when you're driving in, it's very agricultural based there, corn, soybean field all over the place. And there's parts of Ohio that feel a little bit like that too. But it's just like that.
But yeah, just amplify.
Exponentially more like that when you feel like that here.
To me, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here.
Right.
The problem is, if you expand and you have to start having in-house employees, you're not going to have a 300-mile commute.
Yeah, that doesn't work. And we talk about it too. Like, so there's been a few things that we would say has been a detriment to us. We're so isolated that for us to do things like this, it's a big ordeal. I mean, you're not, driving. We drive to the Arnold every year, and we try to make it from South Dakota to Dayton on the first day. And that's 15, 16 hours?
Crap, you're basically there.
But I mean, we do it just to take a break, but we're so far isolated from things that we don't have a lot of opportunities for things like this. But at the same time, it's made us really resourceful with how we do things.
Well, see, now you can just stay in London because I can get to Dayton as fast as I can get to Columbus. Sometimes faster.
You could spin it back to powerlifting too. The way powerlifting is in our community. People they argue over federations and which federation I want to do, which federation I don't like, and stuff like that. In our powerlifting, it's not which federation you like, it's how far away can we not have to go to be able to do a powerlifting meet. A close powerlifting meet is a 3-hour drive.
Yeah. The first meet we ever did together, it was the only one we found in the state at the time, 6-hour drive. We drove 6 hours to do our first ever meet together.
Because it was the closest one we could get to in that calendar year.
Well, you just had a meet, your first meet that you put on. Where did you put it on at?
Western Northeast South Dakota. So Aberdeen itself is actually a population of about 25,000. So we're in a decent little pocket right there. There's just nothing close beyond that. But it was in Aberdeen, and we brought people in. We can talk more about it, but we brought people in from 19 different states and 3 different provinces, Canadian provinces, and all flew or drive into Aberdeen, Western Northeast South Dakota. And I heard so many comments of this is the hardest place to get to that I've ever had to go to. Yeah.
That's great. See, they'll tell that story forever.
They will.
Yes.
They will.
So you had more of them? You had more of them than local lifters?
Yes.
Yeah, probably. Yes. I mean, it was close to 50-50, but it was a touch more.
Yeah, it was about 50. It was 50-50. But local to international. Right.
Well, it's awesome for the local lifters because of what you guys are talking about. You got to travel so far, and it's an awesome sport, obviously.
It's the first powerlifting meet that's been in our town in at least 20 years, as long as I have a memory.
There was rumored there was ones in the 90s, but we don't know that for sure.
Right.
Bigfoot.
Allegedly.
People have said they've seen a powerlifting meet before. But so
they've seen Bigfoot more there than they have the powerlifting meet. Next on the list for the overrated, underrated, and I don't know why this one was suggested, but I'm throwing it out there, cruises. I'm assuming cruise ship cruises.
Well, did they say cruise? Or cruises, or what was the tense? Because it could be.
What was the spelling?
The spelling is and was it CRU with an umlaut above it? Because that means something special in Massenomics lore too.
Now I'm very interested.
All
right, question call out. Okay. That's why I was confusing to cruises.
Cruises. Okay.
Like going on a cruise.
Yeah.
Okay.
I assume that. I don't know.
All right.
I mean, you just brought up some shit. I don't know what you're talking about. So for now, let's just say cruises.
Cruises like as in a cruise ship. Is that what
I assume.
I think cruise ships
I'm going to leave this open.
Incredibly overrated. Right?
Yeah, that's.
Well, have you ever been on a cruise?
I've been on a cruise ship. I did one, and that was enough for me to realize, people are having way more fun here than what they should be. This is overrated.
Where did you go?
That was part of the problem. We left from Galveston, Texas, went all the way across the Gulf to Florida. So you started 3 days on the boat, which is way too much boat time. And then you go from Florida to some spots in the Caribbean there. But that
you didn't go like Cozumel.
No, that was not the cruise.
You just cruise right past Cozumel.
Yeah, it was the good places. See you later. Yeah, that wasn't the one to do.
No, I don't want to be around that many people most of the time at all, let alone like locked on a ship with them. So I've never been on one, but my answer is no. But to be overrated, but to be honest, I don't like that. I don't like that question that they submitted. That's not a good one for
Pull
us.
the audible here.
The good one is crew, CRU with the umlaut above it. And that is something that you're familiar with. And you talk about naming conventions for supporters and followers and stuff like that. And that's really what the most common name is, our crew, CRU, and that's our supporting members and our community around it. That's our
got the Discord crew.
And that's kind of our lifeblood at this point. They've actually become, we did this for many years without anyone supporting and following, and we kept the wheels moving for that period of time. But now what it's transformed to is we almost everything we do is like a feed off of what's coming from our group of supporters, kind of. So it's like if they went away, I'm not sure what we would even talk about and do anymore, because it's like everything comes from them kind of now.
And it's really made Massenomics feel like it has a life of its own, because, we are the two owners of this company, but there's a lot of weeks where I can't keep up with what's going on in the crew. And I'm like, Tanner, what the hell is happening to Massenomics this week? Because there's so many inside jokes and minor joke dramas, things like that, it has a life of its own.
It's on Discord, right?
Yep. Yeah, okay. It mostly funnels through Discord. We call it just like you, we call it our Discord crew. It's same concept. And that's where most of it funnels through. Obviously, it lives on Instagram also, and it lives on
YouTube comments.
Yeah, YouTube comments.
Anywhere there's a presence.
Primarily, it starts funneling through Discord usually, yeah.
Well, so this will be a question just about that, because when we started the crew, which has the Discord and extra podcast or whatever, and it was for the same reason, to be able to help support the podcast. But then over a period of time, it started to take on like its life of its own, kind of. To me, it's the closest thing I've seen online to a training crew in a gym. It's unlike a forum. It's unlike a Facebook group. It's different. It was surprisingly good because I'm thinking, it's just going to be a place we'll answer questions.
It's going to be a cesspool of
just an extension
bad comments and shit.
That worst online community. Like a YouTube comment section.
Yeah,
that's not the case.
So yours is the same type of thing.
Frequently, people get in there, they join for the first time, and there's a group of people that sort of lead it because they've been in there for so long and they activate. So many times new people will come in and they'll make the comment, wow, I didn't know there was a thing on the internet anymore where I could go, and it was so overwhelmingly positive, in the sense like, no, but like there's not negative energy.
And also guys bullshitting with each other because they get it. They're buddies, so they give each other shit online and take it and have fun with it, not get offended.
Well, like what you were saying, I'll go on ours sometimes and I'll be like, what is going on? Like, where did this conversation start? And you're like, there's so much going on, but the cool thing is other people are driving it, and answering it, but you do kind of get lost in it. But if you got enough people in there,
it spawned Instagram meme accounts of its own. Instagram this week we don't know who these people are, but they've created a secret meme account that's having fun with one of the lifters in the crew, and it's just we don't know who's doing it, and it's good.
That's great.
It is what you said though is I hadn't thought about it that way. It is like your kind of like an actual training crew come to life though, because we have that at our gym where say it's our Saturday morning and Sunday morning crew. It's kind of like, I put myself in the classification of one of the older guys at this point. I'm not the oldest guy in the gym, but it's kind of the 30 to 50-year-old guys. We all show up early, like Saturday morning, Sunday morning, and it's a serious training session, but 50% of it is a busting balls session too. And that's what this is like, to the extent, it lives online. But then through things like when we go to the Arnold, we have kind of a big meet up there with those people. And then especially now with our meet that we put on, all these people have been busting each other's balls on the internet for now years. And we put this meet on and they come in person and meet each other actually in person for the first time from all over the country. And it's like they are old buddies. Like there's
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
There was so many people that I'm like, okay, who are you? I only know Instagram handles.
I know, that's
and
crazy.
It's like they say their Instagram like they say their name, like I think I know, and then they say the Instagram handle. It's like, oh, you old son of a bitch.
Yeah.
Okay, and you know, and then you're ragging on them right away and having a good time with it.
A month ago, we had, I called it the training retreat, which was only available for people that are crew members to be able to come out here and train, same type of thing. And it's like, okay, so your real name is this. But it was awesome because they all had this rapport, like they've been training together for years.
right.
And it was actually cool. It was very, it was awesome.
Yeah.
So then it's like, well, how often can we do this? You know, because they got to travel, right? So then there's the expense of them being able to get there to travel. But that was probably for at least on our end of that, I was more than pleasantly surprised. You know, I'm just like, hell, we just need some help to help support the podcast. You know,
Well, when we started it, we thought, we're like, okay, we know both of us will be in there. I know my brother has Discord. Neither of us have been on Discord before that. Like, I know my brother has Discord. So there'll be at least 3 of us. If we're lucky, a few more people can talk, and I guess we'll just stay really engaged.
Well, we'll try and keep the ball rolling.
Yeah, it got a life of its own way quicker than we would have ever guessed.
Personally, I love it because it's its own app. I don't have to deal with this other shit. I just go there.
You can. I mean, we have a very, very small paywall to keep people out.
Yeah,
so
you have
it
to.
filters
But
out that lowest common denominator.
Yes, it does exactly. And I wouldn't not. You know, I'm sure we like the money. Of course, that's part of like helps us keep running. But the paywall is more important for the filter. Honestly,
1,000%.
I think that's the biggest part of the paywall is filtering out the people that are just going to come in and flood it with bullshit.
Have you had? I'm sure you did because you started before I did, but more recently, have you had people that have a hard time just navigating how to use Discord?
Yeah. A lot of people will jump in for the first time and they've been like, "Oh, I've never used this before. I've never tried it." But I'm not particularly tech savvy, and I think Discord is pretty easy once you're in there for a day. You're like, I get it. It's like an old.
It's a chat room,
right?
You reply, you post you get emojis.
It reminds me of an old forum,
right? Yeah, right. Exactly.
Except the emojis, you got to figure out. You have to figure out how to speak emoji, which is a little bit different.
Emoji and GIFs, you know.
Yeah. All right, next on the list, spicy water.
Well,
are those spicy?
Like any gracious host, you gave us a pallet of spicy water.
Well, I'm sure you've rated those.
Yeah.
Right? So what was your rating?
Well, maybe we should bust one out.
Yeah. So have you personally had any of these?
This is the only one that I like. I'll drink any of them.
Well, that's the best one in the bunch.
That's one of my
cherry
favorites. All-time classics right there. You can't go wrong with cherry. I'm partial to cherry, lime, and we got grapefruit on the end. Those are top 3 like all-time right there. So it's hard to beat those.
I have a hard time buying them that are not a variety pack. It's like you're stuck having to buy the variety pack.
Yeah, it's one of those things though. You know, it's like a fine wine. You got to really work it over, let it get into your system, figure out what it is.
So with the sparkling water, then what is the highest rated?
So we go on a scale of 1 to 5 JD Power Awards is how we rate these things.
With half points being
half points can be awarded.
So this is like RPE now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It basically is. We were actually talking about this the other day. I don't think anything's ever received a 5.
No, we say it's a 1 to 5 scale, but nothing really gets below a 2. Nothing gets above a 4. So it's really in the 2 to 4. It's like we're reserving this 5 for some fictitious drink that
really,
we haven't had
we pretty much rate everything 3.5 to 4 for the most part. The worst rating ever was Protocol. You ever heard of that?
No.
It's not sparkling water. It is alcohol with protein in it.
Oh,
protein, alcohol, canned
It's
drink.
almost like is it supposed to be a beer or a seltzer? Do you remember?
It sounds gross.
Yeah, and
no
does it have 10 grams of protein in it?
Yeah.
And I mean, the best I could say about it was it's not piss. Like it was not.
It was
not good.
It was slightly above piss.
That was bad.
So people send us drinks all the time, and what they do is a lot of times they'll wrap them up with
get some paper,
construction paper, so we can't see it, and they send it with a note and say, "Hey, open this on the podcast, try it out." You both try it out, and we blind rate it usually. So first we'll try and guess what the flavor even is, and that's half the battle with these, because for anyone that isn't a sparkling water vet
Connoisseur.
like us, there's a hint of flavor. Like the joke is this drove by a field that had some cherries in it. This can did, and that's how it's flavored. And
different brands have their this is bubbly. Bubbly's a little stronger on the flavor side. The joke started because Tanner would show up to my house to record a podcast with a can of LaCroix, and I'm like, he's drinking that, really? And then I bought a case, and at first I'm like, this stuff sucks. And then you kind of drink it a little more, and pretty soon I'm like, I know. Just to make fun of the whole thing because it's so ridiculous. It doesn't taste like anything. We'll play a game. Well, Tanner will have to actually say what this tastes like because he can't say a flavor. And it started out, we couldn't really taste them. And then after a while, we're like guessing these flavors actually.
Like spotting, like that one's got hibiscus and, a hint of cucumber.
So it's an acquired taste. It definitely is an acquired taste because my wife's been drinking the sparkling water shit for years. And I would have one every now and again. Oh, God. And take 2 sips and like, I'm done. It's gross. Now I'll just drink it. Because so I think I've acquired a taste.
It kind of is. Because like you said at the beginning, we just kind of thought it was bullshit and we're joking around with it. But anymore, it's like, now I just drink them.
And I think to this date, have we rated 150 cans? Probably something like that.
Yeah.
All right, so now going back to the spicy thing, what the hell is considered? Because the flavor's already a problem, right? Yeah. So how do you know if it's spicy or not?
We've never really talked about this in depth. Is it just the fact that it has bubbles? Is that what makes it spicy?
I don't really know where that stems from.
There's also, we have this joke, it's a steaming hot.
We always say they're best served.
So there is no such thing as spicy.
Fresh out the oven, steaming hot.
Actually, someone sent us one just this week. They wrapped it, or a couple weeks ago, they had wrapped it up as one of our crew members. He had mailed it to us, and it was
a Polar small batch margarita jalapeno
sparkling water. It was had a jalapeno was one of the and it had a little
that did have a bit of a burn. It just gave you the hint of heartburn.
It's not what you would choose to drink if you have a choice.
Like I said, this can go 2 ways. It's either like your 3.5 or a 0.
Yeah, it was about 3. Like the flavor was good. It's just not something you would really consider refreshing.
No,
so are any of them?
I think they're pretty refreshing.
I don't know.
Cold one.
I haven't got there yet. I haven't got to the refreshing
I don't drink pop. Depending on what part of the country you're from, whatever you call it. I don't drink soda or pop or whatever.
Soda. Yeah. I would call it pop.
Right. I haven't had a pop in 20 years, like legitimately. So this kind of gives me something sometimes. And also the funny part about this, I'd throw in, we're kind of known for, drinking beer and doing that sort of thing. And this became kind of a substitute at that because we can't drink beer. We can't.
Sure, you can.
We can't drink beer all the time. We got some other things going on.
Like people don't believe that we're like trying to run businesses. We have jobs
and
kids,
families and all that stuff.
I think we're just like over here, like unhinged alcoholics making memes all day.
You could.
We could.
Well, you could. I don't think it'd work it quite as well. Yeah.
All right. Next on the list, 4-board. Like a 1-board, 2-board.
Oh, the 4-board. Yeah, good choice. Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Probably the best, most resourceful tripod that exists in the gym.
Dave, we've got a whole YouTube video on it where I did a YouTube where, the title of it is basically comparing and contrasting board press versus bench blocks.
Bench blocks versus boards.
And that's the title, and the image is, a bench block versus a board press. And I get into it, I talk for 2-3 minutes about why people would board.
The history of them.
I pull a clip of someone in here doing a board press, showing what a board press is, what you might use it for, that sort of thing. And then I get into the practical portion of the video showing how they would actually be applied in the gym. And then it just turns into the 4-board as a tripod.
Just showing
and that's all,
how you can angle your phone.
Like all the different tripod features that a 4-board has versus a bench block. It kind of can be a tripod, but it tilts back and forth. And so that was the joke.
The angle's going to be too deep if it's a.
There's different bench blocks though. Some of them have a really deep. If you're depending on the way that bench block is, some of them have a deep set where you can get the phone in there pretty good and it stays pretty vertical.
They have bench blocks now for the earthquake bar. Because we sell bench blocks. So that would be I don't use a bench block or a board. I didn't even know you could use a board for a tripod, but I suppose you could.
The 4-board, but you want the 4-board because a 3 will work, but a 2-board and 1-board won't, obviously. A 2-board doesn't give you enough of a shelf, but a 3-board or optimally a 4-board gives you the right shelf
tilt.
amount.
You got a lot of tilt to work
you got
there.
5-board.
Now, is 5-board something that people train with? Like,
if they have long enough arms.
Okay. Okay, yeah. I was going to say that'd be a pretty short stroke, I think.
Imagine if you're one of the IPF lifters that's way out
you wouldn't even be able to unrack it.
Yeah.
Like, that's my kind of bench press.
All right, so this one you kind of touched on already, so I'm sure there's a story behind this. Unpaid interns.
Yeah.
They're unpaid and underrated is what I would say.
Yeah. That's the phrase.
So we got a story on that. We'll go on a story on that too. But that started with us. We have a group of hardcore fans, and they were making memes, other things. And in the name of keeping things fair, we never gave anyone credit. Just all credit went back to the crew.
Generically, the crew.
Yeah.
Like no individual credit.
Their stage name?
Well,
we could have tagged them, but really it all went back to the crew always.
Yeah.
And kind of because of laziness, I didn't want to like do the research on each one and be like, oh, thanks, Kevin.
I get that.
You don't want anyone to get too big of a head either. You got to keep everyone on a level playing field.
No, it's really what he just said.
Like, thanks, crew.
Yeah, no, I believe that more than the other because I could see that like, oh, this was really cool. Where was it? Well, it was on the score.
Yeah, and then like, where the hell was it? How long ago? Or was it on Instagram? Or was where did this come in through? So that's our unpaid interns is really the group of that crew that they do a lot of shit for us. One thing you'll be aware of this one that one of our I won't give specific credit. Part of our crew did was they made Tate Sounds. Is it tatesounds.com? And that was a product of the crew.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That was one of our crew members that made Tate Sounds. I think that's still active. And I
believe I keep forgetting about it because I remember when Sam first showed it to me. Like, what the fuck is this?
So for anyone that doesn't know, is it tatesounds.com?
I think it's tatesounds.com.
Now go to tatesounds.com, check it out, and it's a great training tool if you're in the gym. You use it with a training partner if they're lifting. If someone needs encouragement, you can choose up, drive, whatever Dave Tate, back. Yeah, whatever Dave Tate sound that's an appropriate cue at the time. You just cue it up, and you can even do them in succession. So it's like up, back.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can choose. You can program your
God, I forgot
cues.
All about that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to revisit that one. Next on the list, breaking parallel.
Yeah.
And the room goes quiet.
Yeah.
This is tricky because breaking parallel is sought after. It is popular, but it's also not done nearly enough. I think I still got to say breaking parallel is underrated.
Yeah, breaking parallel is a parody that we did at one point in time. And with our shorts, we have the most expensive overpriced shorts in the market. So jorts are no exception, actually, too, just as overpriced. But we've come to be known for very expensive shorts. And the origin story on that quickly is we started selling Champion, our version of printed with our logo, Champion shorts. And we had a commenter on, this is early on in Massenomics, we had a commenter on the internet that really dug into us on this. This is via Instagram, I think, and we released these, put a few posts about it. And his original comment was like, what the hell? You're just taking a pair of Champion shorts, slapping your logo on them and selling them for more. You can't trick me, you sons of bitches. Why would I pay money for that?
And it was like, nah, I'm good with the plain ones.
Yeah, that was how he finished. Nah, I'm good with the plain ones.
And to us, we're like, I don't know if you know, but that is how the apparel industry works. You take the plain ones.
Thank you for describing the business.
Sell them more. That's actually how a lot of businesses in the world work. You take something, you decorate it, you sell it. And so we ran with that for quite a while, and it caught a lot of traction. It became pretty infamous online.
No, I've been through that journey several times with t-shirts.
And this is also, what were we selling? Were we selling our shirts for?
Our shorts were like $30.
I don't even know if we started at 30. They might have been 25 at the time, and we're talking $25 shorts.
It's completely. He's getting into the price, how overpriced they were, and that led into maybe our most popular running gag of all time is our expensive shorts. People we don't even know will come up to us.
They'll be at the Arnold.
They'll be like, nice shorts. How much did those cost? And we'll be like, you get it.
And there'll be people don't even know them. They'll be completely serious. They'll be looking down at the table. They'll see the shorts and they'll just look and go, these are those really expensive shorts, aren't they? And like, or they'll just come up to you and say, I just want you to know I did get my mortgage approved before I came here. So
Yeah,
I can buy this. And
yeah.
like they're in on the joke. They're deadpan, completely serious.
Yeah.
Giving you the joke.
And another take on that, some people start to think our audience that is into this, they paint a picture of what they think this person is like, and maybe they think they're just a goofy guy that's in it. He maybe barely lifts, he's like kind of trains casually. I'll tell you what, we've had people come up to us before that I'm like, he'll walk up, I'm like, we have a booth at the Kansas City Showdown meet a few years ago, a big meet, Dan Grigsby's lifting there. Jamal Browner was there. Herbie is there, just tons of top, John Hack, Andy Huang, tons of top tier lifters were lifting in that meet. And, one of them comes over, I won't name names on that either too. And I'm like, this guy doesn't know about, this guy doesn't fucking care about Massenomics. He probably thinks we're a couple dumbasses, and he comes over and one of the biggest guys in the room of real big, strong guys, and looks at us, and he busts out that same he's like, why do you charge so damn much for these shorts? And like, I crack up laughing because he's in on the joke. And then he comes and he's like, yeah, I don't miss a podcast episode. I know all the jokes. Then he's like, brings his wife over here, and she's like, oh, look, it's those expensive shorts. And she's like, rolls her eyes just like every wife does when the husband makes them come over and talk about it. And that was a revelation moment for me where I'm like, oh no, like there's people that enjoy this and get a kick out of this of all people that we think
are the most hardcore people that would be bothered with this serious or this dumb jokey stuff. I'm like, no, this relates to everyone, or way more people than we think. And to bring the initial thing full circle with the lift shorts, the guy that left us that initial review saying this is so expensive, how could you, this is so dumb, it was about 2 years later the order came in. He said, all right, you got me. I'm buying them. So the guy actually ended up buying them that initially left.
He knew it turned into this giant joke, and then he was like, nah, I'm in on it now.
He's probably over a period of time, he's sold more shorts than anybody.
Yeah. It's safe to say that did change the direction of how some things went for us, because we can take anything that happens, as long as we don't take it seriously. It can't hurt us. We can make anything a joke, and it can roll with it.
This did not happen with the shirts from the start, because I'm sure it's something before you went tagless, you had tags, right? It didn't happen with that.
I don't know if we ever had, maybe our very first run of
our very first early, we had tags on there. No, but it was the shorts that got people.
I think people in their mind are just more used to buying decorated tees. Like that's more acceptable in their head.
And I don't know if it's that the shorts were Champion specifically that they associated. That's a strong brand recognition, where if it's some shirt, they're like, well, I don't give a shit about Next Level or Bella Canvas or whatever. Gen Pop doesn't know the difference in those, but they see Champion, they're like, well, I know Champion, you're just ripping off Champion shorts here. So maybe that was part of it too.
The shirts have been kind of weird because we have both. So we'll have tagless and we'll have Gildan or Triathlon or whatever. Where I can remember phases to where is this Gildan, right? And then
they're like, I don't want
no, and now it's Triathlon or whatever. So then you do tagless, and it's Gildan, right? And
right,
it's tagless, right? And it's this isn't Gildan. And it's like, actually,
it is. Yeah, joke's on you.
Yeah. And if we wanted to talk apparel fits and all that, oh man, that's been a brutal one lately with just whatever's going on with factories overseas, the way they're sourcing and making materials. They can't make stuff consistently apparently anymore. It's been a battle.
No, we will circle back to that one, because that is a struggle I think everybody deals with. It's like what happened to the R? Like, why am I now wearing a XL?
Yes. I never thought I was a 3X. I never imagined I was a 3X. I've actually lost weight, and now I'm a fucking 3X.
And it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
All right. Next on my list is liquid soap.
Liquid soap.
I don't know if I have a strong opinion on liquid soap.
Decide what the court of public opinion says on liquid soap. It's kind of the go-to. It's
I'm a bar soap fan, though, to be honest. So I guess I'll say liquid soap is overrated.
Tanner's more of a hipster at his core, so he probably has some like beeswax bar soap or something he's hiding. So just to disagree, I'm going to say liquid soap is underrated.
I'm going to say that it's overrated, right? The reason for that is if you use liquid soap, right, in the shower, and not like the hand sanitizer. Right. When you got a fresh bottle, right, it's awesome, right? But it doesn't stay full for more than 2 days.
Somehow.
100%. 100% agree with you there. But on the flip side of it, bar soap, it attracts all that hair, and the last guy's mildew is on there, and you leave them sitting and they get gross. So that's.
But with the liquid soap, when you get down to like this,
you got to just dump those. Yeah, you just dump those.
No, you don't. I mean, you sit there and you
the
like,
pump doesn't work anymore.
You try to like milk the shit out of it.
Third full.
You get some water in there, and then you're diluting your soap down.
Yeah. So it's bar for me. Bar soap is underrated.
Yeah,
like you need the bar soap.
I'm a big bar soap guy.
The liquid soap's great when it's full, but somebody needs to keep the shit full all the time, or you need to buy in bulk. Or you should sell. I mean, maybe you need to sell it.
We could. We've had some. We're always looking.
Just put it. You have stickers. You have tons of stickers.
We'll slap our logo on just about anything and charge a little more.
And then people are going to say, "Dude, this is just dial soap."
Dial soap with our logo.
Yeah, and put it right over the logo so it hides the logo. There you go. I got a business proposition for you then. All right, so that's my overrated, underrated.
Awesome.
I could keep going forever.
That was good.
With Massenomics, when did it start? Because I'm thinking you guys are about a decade now.
Yeah.
Closing in on that.
Yeah, we say 2014. It's actually tricky to say when it started because the question would be, when did what start? I think that's kind of
the name. Yeah. I would start with the name.
The name started the end of 2014. I guess. What's your story? Our story on this is kind of tricky, but what do you say?
Yeah, because you're old now.
So you're forgetting details.
That's exactly
that's
right.
That's actually the right. That's the truth.
Well, the earliest days were Tanner and I were both lifting at the local YMCA. It was really the only gym you could go to in the area, and
both powerlifting.
Only we did not know each other at all. I was relatively new in town, and only reason we knew each other because we were the only guys up there about 5:30 every night that both seemed to do powerlifting type things. Like we were hitting depth on squat, we were benching, we were.
I like how you explain that.
We were. That's an important indicator. Like
that's a power lifter for sure.
Right.
It's like, damn, he's not just quarter repping that thing. Like, we were deadlifting, which is also a complete anomaly at the time, and eventually, you're at the gym with another guy that seems to be doing what you're doing. You just spark up a conversation, and so we'd kind of catch up when we were there. And one day you came up to me and you go, "Oh, I started this YouTube channel," and I think was it Aberdeen Strength Training? Was that?
That's what. For a couple days.
Tanner that was 2014. When people were kind of getting going with online training vlogs, YouTube and all that. And I think you did that for maybe a couple videos.
Yeah.
And then you came up to me another day and you're like, "Oh, look at this. Like, I got this name for this thing." And it was Massenomics. And I do graphic design, some branding type stuff like that. And I'm like, that's actually a cool name. The number of times people tell me names for stuff and I'm like, that name sucks. It's a bad name. And I'm like, that's actually a really cool name. And to date, this is still the only time I've ever done this. I'm like, "Oh, let me just make a logo for you." Like, I've never offered to do anything for free for anyone before. I don't know why I decided that was the time to do it. And so I'm just kind of sitting, letting it stew in my head, and sat down one day, made the logo for Massenomics. It's still the logo we use to this day. And I sent it to Tanner. Still don't really know this guy this well at the time. And he texts me back right away. He's like, "Holy shit, that's awesome. Like, we got to do something with that." And so made some t-shirts, and we could go on and on and on, but that's the quick story of how that got going.
That's the quick origin. And the name, some people want to know what the hell is, like, why is, that's just letters together. And technically it's a portmanteau is two words smashed together right there by definition, but it's mass. And I just was like, we like lifting and getting bigger and getting stronger. And so mass, I like that word. And then I had just read Freakonomics, the book at the time. I'm like, and he was doing it's a ripoff of that essentially, and then our spin on it. So that's where the name actually came from. And at first it was a YouTube channel. I was just videoing me in the gym. If you look at our YouTube channel, you can go back.
Yeah, they're still there. Tanner hasn't taken any of them down.
And I believe in not taking any of our stuff down, whether that's our original podcast, our original YouTube, any of that, because it sucks.
No,
but that's what tells the story. That tells a story.
Yeah.
Like if you go back and that's the high watermark, it means you have not gotten better at all.
Right.
That'd be an even worse.
Like, you should look back at it and be like, that sucks. If you 10 years later, if you can't say that, you're like, what the hell did I do in the last 10 years? So that's the start. And then, it wasn't long after that it turned into a gym also. So next came the gym. First came the name, then the logo, then a few t-shirts, then a gym.
With the t-shirts, how do you sell the shirts.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard other people on the podcast talking about it, selling out of the trunk of your car at the YMCA, and someone say, "Hey, what? Like I see you got this thing going. I want to buy one." And so when I say selling shirts, we're selling 50 T-shirts
over the course of a couple.
And
months.
it's just to our people that we're kind of training with. We go to go to one of our first powerlifting meets at the time, and people see us wearing it. They kind of talking to it. People we've kind of lifted with a little bit in the past. They want one, so I bring a bag of shirts with me to the powerlifting meet and sell them there. And we weren't making any money.
We joke about it now. We laugh because I think those first T-shirts were we selling them for $18.
Yes.
It's like, oh yeah, we were making like $2 a shirt at the time or something, because we were running them in such low quantities too. Because who would want to buy these things?
Right.
Well, stepping all the way back into that though, you figured out how to find them in low quantities, because now it's probably way easier to find somebody to do it in low quantities, but back then you wouldn't. It was very hard.
Yeah, and the apparel game's changed a ton in the last 10 years. It used to feel like finding a quality screen printer was hard to do. Like, there were screen printers, but you ask them for more than like 1 or 2 colors or anything outside of like a imprint on the front or back. And it's like you got out of people's capabilities in a hurry. And I think that industry has matured a lot more over time, or at least there's online resources.
Oh, it has, most definitely.
Yeah, so you can find more stuff. So like that part, the sourcing isn't the challenge that it used to be, but still just putting together shirts that people want to buy is never easy. I mean, it's always a guessing game. You never know.
Yeah, that's
and to get, I don't know how much you want to get into that, but because it is so much easier now to be in that space to try to at least, it's so much easier to try and make a go at it.
Yeah.
It's not, I think it's harder for everyone to find success with it, but it's so easy for people to get in.
You can go online to anyone. Yeah. You can type on right now, like T-shirts on demand. Google it right now. You'll find someone that'll sell you T-shirts, ship it to your customer, everything, and they'll charge you $22. And then, you try to sell it for $30. And by the time they take out their fees, their commission, all that stuff, like, you made $4. Like, that's not a business.
Well, now you can do that, but back then you couldn't.
No.
Being kind of in that space is one of our, what do you want to, line items, right? Is with screen printing, it was okay. Either I need to buy our own, which I didn't want to do that just because of space and stuff like that.
Yep.
So we stayed heat pressed before we did the screen print, because if I had to get screen print, I needed like quantities of 100 per size.
Yep.
Like this is going to take me 4 years, and then there are going to be giveaways at some point.
Yep.
And so your ability just to find somebody to do, maybe was it a local person
at first?
We started locally, and then and it was fine, but over time we found a different vendor that we've worked with for a long time now that's been way more flexible,
better pricing, more reliable,
quantities, capabilities, all of that. So we've had a pretty long-term relationship now that's worked really well for us.
Okay, so you're selling shirts out of the trunk, right? Going to powerlifting meets and so forth. And then when did the gym come in?
So the gym started in would it be November 2015, because we're just about on the 8-year anniversary of the gym, I think. So I think, or no, wait, May 2015. Somewhere in the,
no, I think it was November.
November 2015. That might be right.
Yeah.
And that came about just, we're lifting at the local YMCA. I've done a few strongman competitions. We've done a few powerlifting meets. We're getting more serious about it, and just kind of like starting to learn that what we want to do, this isn't the greatest place for it. It's been fine for us up to this point in our learning curve. What we've figured out up to this point, it's been okay. But then we start to figure out, but we want more. We want to be able to do more than this. We don't want to be harped at for pulling a deadlift. And at the time, now you go to a commercial gym, any commercial gym, there's probably people deadlifting all over the place. But 10 years ago, it was way more rare that people were doing that sort of thing. And we would get told not, that it's damaging the floor and stuff like that. And we were ready to find a place of our own. So I kind of took the lead on that, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to start digging through Craigslist. It was strictly Craigslist at the time. That's where I was pulling this stuff from. Accumulated maybe about $5,000 worth of equipment to get started, and then trying to find a landlord. I found literally a dirt hole in the bottom of a basement. Pretty much is what we were dealing with. It was an old cellar in a 150-year-old building.
How big? Or how small?
800 square feet, I think, is what we actually.
Not bad. For a first start,
it was good enough. We had a full squat, a full power rack, a half rack, one bench,
dumbbells,
a dumbbell area, a lat pull down, and a deadlift platform. That's what we had.
Heat?
That's we had a
there was no formal HVAC
what are those?
system.
No, we had a space heater in there.
We had an Eden Pure
yeah,
space
an Eden
heater
Pure
on the floor.
space heater. Yeah, the first guy that would come in the morning, we couldn't leave it run all night.
Yeah.
The first guy that would come in the morning at like 5 a.m., it was his job to turn it on when he got there. So he'd train and be like 55 degrees in there. If anyone doesn't know, and where we live in South Dakota, it gets negative 30 in the winter. So
that's why I threw that out there.
Yeah, it's freaking cold. But he'd turn it on. By the time some of the later guys would get there, it'd be fine during the day. But and it wasn't AC'd, so when it was hot, the mirrors
would be dripping.
would literally just run. It'd just be running. But
and you could never have. I mean, the original gym was there 8 of us? I think.
Yeah.
So there was. I mean, at its busiest, there was 6-7 people in this gym. It was small. But
was it enough to cover the rent though?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I manage the gym part of it, and I'm pretty like through my other career and just my mentality and stuff, I'm pretty like financially responsible. And I wasn't going to get into anything.
Some people might say frugal or cheap.
Yeah, some of them cheap.
Good.
Yeah. And I wasn't ever going to do anything with that. With all that.
Yeah.
With actually anything I do, I'm pretty calculated on risk decisions, and I wasn't going to do anything that I felt was stupid. And I had enough commitment. I know people want to start a gym, they get commitments, and then they go to start the gym and nobody shows up. That's the age-old thing. Also, nobody start a gym. Don't start a gym if you're listening to this. Like, that's my number one advice. It works out good for us, but
know what you're getting into.
Yeah, don't do it.
Real estate prices in Western Northeast South Dakota are vastly different than the majority of the country.
So it did. At first, I fronted the money for the equipment. So I had that expense, and a couple other members actually did too. They put in a little money to buy some equipment. They kept ownership of the equipment, but
that's a fair risk though, because it doesn't work out. You just put it
got
in
the
your
equipment.
garage.
Yeah, exactly.
And
exactly.
But it was so cheap at the time. Like, what was it? You needed 5 members to break.
Yeah,
even.
Our rent, and it was literally a dirt hole. We were paying like $400 a month in rent. So it didn't take very many members to cover that. And then
assuming they pay.
Well,
that's the other thing, because I had some capabilities from the onset. I was like, I am not letting these freaking people pay me, write me a check or throw me cash every month when they feel like it, because I already know that doesn't work. And it's also going to like cause me to, at the end of the day, my good buddy and I aren't going to be good buddies, because this guy won't pay me his freaking $38, and I'm getting pissed off about it, and now I'm covering for him, and we're all covering for him. So I set up ACH payments from the start. To be a member, you had to either like pay a year up front or set up automatic payments. Even when we had 8 members, everyone was ACH monthly payments. And I kind of had the connection with the bank to be able to get that set up pretty quickly. And that was... Do not.
Could you imagine not having that with a gym?
No, do not do it without that.
Well, that's
if
why
you need the money for anything. If you want to just be if you want to volunteer your services to people and make it a charity, then that's cool too. But don't go into it expecting that they're going to pay you each month with cash.
What I've always told people that are in that position is assume this is your garage gym someplace else. Like you can float this all yourself, worst case scenario, and all it means is less seltzer water.
Yes.
It's covered from that, at least from the very start.
Yes.
What is, when you said your other career, what is that?
So I worked at the time I worked at a bank. I'm in ag lending kind of, but I kind of do that. I'm in agricultural finance now. Yeah. So at the time I worked at a bank, so I had a real good connection where, these services weren't costing us any money. I could kind of do it on the cheap. And, but that's what I do. I do it to this day. That's another thing. Both of us still have full-time jobs outside of this.
So what is yours?
So I have a freelance web design business.
Okay. Web design or just graphic?
Web design and graphic design. Okay. So
because web design is a broad.
It is a broad thing. Yeah. The majority of my income comes from building websites, but then like if I have clients that need help with, graphic design, photography, video, like I have a whole
e-commerce, or
I do some e-commerce things. I mean, we run our store and everything, but like if you came to me and said, "Hey, can you do?" I'm like, "Yeah, you're a little too big for me, Dave." Like that's not what.
But if someone's like, "Yeah, I want to sell I'm starting this product. I've got 3 products to sell." You'd be like, "Yeah, I can set up a shop for you."
I'm very upfront with my clients if you're going to be a good fit or not. I have the luxury to I have people coming to me so I can say, if it's going to work or not. And if it doesn't, I can pass it and take the next one.
But that, talking about us having full-time careers, we both have large families and we have wives, houses, mortgages, kids, mouths to feed and stuff like that. This relates to Massenomics business in general, also the gym business in general. A lot of podcasts, this is a point I like to make. People talk about sometimes you got to burn the ships. Whoever the Spanish sailor was that came to South America, he's burned the ship, so they had no choice but to get out of there. I am not a favor of burning the frickin' ships. Like, you need to not burn the ships. Like, it goes my risk tolerance and stuff like that. I'm like, when we're setting up the gym, I'm doing it in a way where, no, I'm not burning the ships, just in case something's not right about this. If this isn't
and I think a lot of people underestimate if they really want something, their work capacity. Like, if you really want this, you can work at multiple things for a long time.
We just burn the candle from
and
five
eventually,
ends
like it's just going to crush you because things are going good.
Right.
Then you can make the decision. Like,
right.
You shouldn't just be like proactive, like, I'm probably going to be busy, so I'm just going to like throw this thing away and go all in here. Like, now
I'm 100% under the same mindset because it's risk management, which you need to understand in anything.
Yeah.
And the whole no backup plan or no B plan to me is fucking ridiculous. Because even it's interesting when you look at the people that are strong proponents of that, and then you look at what they do. Like, if they're in business and one marketing scheme doesn't work, does that mean you just stay with it?
Oh, absolutely.
Or do you change it?
Right.
Well, of course they change it. So wait a minute. I thought it was like burn the boats. And when you just stay with the shitty marketing plan that you started with, it never made sense to me.
No.
Where, especially when you're building a business or trying to build a business, there can be the negative to where there is a certain point where there's that balance, and then that's a second risk. Like, the first risk is starting it.
Right.
The second risk is when you get there, like, ooh, maybe if we flip now, this will go better. And that's a whole different conversation, where I think the people that you're talking about are just like, fuck it, I'm going in. And like, good luck, man.
It ties into that Instagram, like, beast mode, grind, hustle culture. It's like, it's a glamorous thing to say, but it's like, no, just work hard at something. And then if it's going good, you'll know. And then you can start to make a call on what the next move is.
No, yeah, what you're saying is right. There very well, hopefully, is a tipping point when you can make those decisions, but it's usually farther on down the road than what a lot of people might, it's like you make those decisions when you're forced to, almost. And that's kind of what you said too. When you have like, I almost don't have a choice now. If we're taking this to the next level, it has to go, I have to go all in on it now.
Well, then you're more informed too.
Right.
This is 80 hours a week or 100 hours a week. Yeah. Unless you're one of the lucky ones that just grow fast. But that's a problem too. It is. Yeah. A lot of times, because I've seen those too, they don't have longevity. So you better hope this fast pop is enough to retire on, or at least you've maintained contacts to be able to go back and do what you were doing before. Yeah. I've always said that I got enough people that own training centers that if everything goes south, I can still go train people, as long as they all stay in business.
Yeah. Right.
There's my B plan, right? Like, just be a trainer.
Right.
It's there, but you make a very valid point with that, because then you got to balance it all.
Yeah.
Which,
you do have to. And which I think that's something we've become pretty good at, is balancing. Talk about juggling the balls. Well, we juggle a lot of fucking balls, and you just learn that sometimes one is, you drop one ball for a little while and you keep juggling the other one, then you pick it back up. And then the gym, we've been able to really grow that organically, where to the point where because of other things going on, I don't rely on the gym financially anyway. It's still kind of like a club, even 8 months later, or 8 years later. It's still kind of like a club in the sense that, these members are paying money, but I don't pull money out of it. Everything the gym makes goes back into the gym. And we've been able to expand our footprint twice. We moved out of the cellar into a different, more high class basement. It's still kind of a dirty hole in the basement, but it's just a lot bigger one. And then we eventually doubled that space. Now I think we're at like 4,000 or 5,000 square foot in our space, and our equipment sucked at the beginning. Now our equipment's awesome. One of the first cool purchases we made was we got rid of our original almost homemade bench and bought an Elite FTS competition bench. And
I still remember that day. I showed up. We're like, this is what a bench can be. It was just like blowing our minds that one, they can make it that wide. It can be that grippy. Like this is actually what can happen. Yeah, because they didn't exist anywhere else. You couldn't find that stuff.
No, and now we have a couple of those. We've got Go Strong combo racks. We've got big Rogue 6-post racks. We've got every
specialty
bar that's every specialty bar you make, every specialty bar that everyone else makes. It's just and we talked about the equipment earlier a little bit. The equipment is such a rabbit hole, but it's also like an addicting rabbit hole to me. That's what the gym is in part to me now. It just feeds my equipment like addiction. Whereas just like that's part of lifting to me anymore. Like I don't have to have this new shit, but the new shit just makes me want to go use it. It always makes me want to come back for more than when we always got different, new, cool, exciting stuff coming in. So I'm an equipment junkie at heart now, and I didn't used to be.
Yeah,
I didn't.
Tanner's even getting again to his hipster tendencies. He's now going down the vintage equipment rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's a rabbit hole there.
Yeah,
he's working on a York dumbbell set right now.
Yeah, the York roundheads. I've been into those pretty hard, and then
that's a weird one for me because like.
Why do you want this old shitty stuff?
Well, it's not just that. It's like because there's a cost. You got to be able to get it. And then like my dumbbells do what the dumbbells do, and could I? It's kind of like you're old enough to remember CDs, right? So, like course, I could buy more. I could buy this really cool storage rack. Or I could just buy 4 more CDs.
Right.
It's a conundrum.
Yeah.
You don't know what the fuck to do.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I am a believer, though, even with that vintage stuff, even if it's expensive like that, we use our equipment. Like nothing's a showpiece. I'm not buying anything to not be used. If we're buying equipment, I want it to get lifted in the gym. Like that is the point of our gym equipment is get fucking used at the end of the day.
How many members do you have now?
We've got, it hovers, we also our gym, you can't find it. You pull up to it, you wouldn't know you were there. There's no signage out front. That's by design. We do not advertise. I don't really want more members, but new members are not discouraged. It's a self-filtering process because you can't find it. You almost have to either know somebody that goes there or you have to really want to get in there. The door's locked outside. You can't find it. You have to show up and there's been people, they show up on multiple days, like 5 days in a row until they actually find someone walking in, and then they have to let them in and get showed. So like you have to really want to be there in order to get in there. To answer the question, we're at like 60 right now. And that's a good number for me. It could get half that. I'd be okay with it. It could get a little bit bigger. I don't want it too much more than that. And we've talked,
there's been, as far as the gym goes, there's been zero marketing that's ever taken outside of, I guess, making memes that maybe point towards the gym in one way or another, but there's been zero effort to actually market the gym. And I mean, if we made an effort, we could probably double that number.
Oh yeah, I think so.
What does that gain you?
Well, I don't really want it. I don't really want more gym members, honestly. Like I just want, and I don't care. It doesn't have to be top level power lifters done that. You don't have to be competing in strongman. That's what I tell everyone. I just want everyone to come in there with like just training with a purpose.
Or just have a good attitude.
Right.
Like, you go to a gym and you get the guys that just have a bad attitude every day, and they start that black hole, and everyone around them is in a bad attitude, and they're just complaining about everything. Like that's the worst thing. You want to go to the gym to have a good time.
Like
to
get away from
leave that stuff behind. So anyone that can show up with a good attitude, know how to have fun, and also lift.
Well, it can become its own business, and it already is its own business, but it can become its own business with all the negatives associated with business. And then you're like, why?
Right.
And I understand why people have them and how they scale, but they're not going to be able to do multiple other things outside of that. And then what is the total upside with that? I don't want to discourage people from having gyms, but they need to know what they're getting into.
Oh no, I love the gym's kind of like my baby. I love the gym and everything about it, but I do try to manage it in a way that is as little stress for me as humanly possible. Like I do not want that to be a stress center for me in any way. And I manage it accordingly because it's like that's supposed to be enjoyable for me. That's supposed to be a good experience with the gym. Yeah. Right.
All right. Well, the next thing I want to tap on, because I don't want to go deep into any of these. We're just going to surface level it. Then we'll come back and go a little bit deeper. When did the podcast start? Because now you're getting close to 400 episodes.
Yeah.
Was that 20?
March of 2015, I think. March 2015.
And how did that happen?
Yeah, so originally there was a two other guys when Massenomics originally started. And
so there's 4 of us owners. We're each equal owners at the time.
There's 4 equal owners at the time. Well, Tanner started it, and then this other guy came in and he said, "Hey, I want to start a podcast." He'd known about us just recently, knew this gym was opening. He said, "I love podcasts. I know I got all the equipment. I know what it takes to do it. Let's start a podcast." And at the time, like, podcasts are relatively new. I mean, for a lot of people, I'd been listening Mark Bell's Powercast. We used to always listen to that. We thought that was the best, you know.
Well, if you go back far enough, it was like radio. It was like fake
right,
radio.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Like, but you could hear about these niche topics that you wouldn't really encounter outside of YouTube. And so this guy really wanted to start the podcast, and we thought, okay, well, yeah, we'll do 20 episodes if we're lucky, and let's see how that goes. Yeah. And you know, in the beginning, we knew we're not world-class athletes. We don't need to give you our unique training perspective. I mean, you've got that covered for years. You know, people like Dave out there.
We're lifetime intermediates, is where we fit in. Is that's the running joke.
We understand our spot. You know, we know where we're at. We don't need to give you the cutting edge tips and techniques out there. So we're like, okay, we'll just give our perspective on things. And so in the beginning, it was finding our voice. Like, what do we talk about? And it was just kind of what was going on with our training at the time, working through.
Well, it's a podcast about nothing.
Right?
It's gone through stages, though. In the beginning, it tried to be a podcast about something. We didn't try to really focus on our training. And it has gone through stages. And that was, the first 100 episodes we had, there was 3 of us.
Yep.
And then shortly after 100, one of the guys, he'd left to go do something else. And then it was the 2 of us. And then it was sort of that starting over thing again. And slowly it turned into the podcast about nothing.
Yeah, it's like episode, I think about 125 is where it transitioned to just the 2 of us. And
now, was that because the other person just is out of the picture?
He moved to a different country, actually. So he went to go do a training opportunity with somebody else in Netherlands and stuff like that. And so it was, even our 4th partner was never on the podcast, but he did everything. All those were really amicable, no issues. It was just, and also it's really easy to be amicable because at the time there was no frickin' money. So money is the thing that usually divides people in that way. And there's no money at stake here.
But it changes the voice and the theme a little bit.
There is distinct separate eras because our original other co-host, he led the podcast in the way that, when you pop on the beginning of Table Talk here, you're talking, you're introducing, he led it. He knew the audio equipment. He
edited it, produced it, put it out every week.
He
that
was vocally led it. And so it was a real transition for us at first because it's like, okay, now we got to make this happen because we don't want to let this die. So we're at 391. I think we recorded this week. So we've gone 391 straight weeks. We've never not published a new episode on Monday. So for now, we're coming up on 8. It'll be 8 years eventually, or 400 episodes where we've never missed a Monday of a new episode being published. So we even at 125, we're like, well, we have this. We can't stop this. We're kind of
right. We got to do it. People, which was like no one. People expect us to produce this thing,
and we're starting to build momentum, and we're starting to see something. I mean, we did it for 3 years without any. Certainly no monetary compensation.
No sponsors. No, we didn't have a sponsor. We didn't have sponsors. We didn't have this Discord crew. We didn't have any way to support us.
Almost,
it was purely for listeners and to kind of talk about what we were doing. And so that's another thing we like to tell people. Like, so many people are like, "Oh, I'm going to start a YouTube channel or a podcast or whatever because I want to start making money like this month." And it's like, dude, we worked for 3 years for free before we saw like peanuts, and not that we're rolling in it now, but it takes a long time to build these things unless you happen to be that 1 in a million guy that gets lucky and catches the algorithm.
That's
or
so
just
rare.
It is. It's very few and far between.
And the ones that you think are that are probably lying.
Yeah.
So it's more rare than rare.
Yep.
Yeah. We did start at the right time though. The only thing better would be if we would have started 2 years earlier, honestly. But starting when we did, if we were to try to start what we did then now, it would be such an uphill battle to try and gain traction. We just had in our favor at the time, there were so many fewer options, so many fewer out there, especially in the strength training space. We could gain some momentum eventually. I don't know. It'd be a lot hard. Not that you couldn't do it. You could still do it, especially if you have a compelling anything to go along with it, whether it's you
have to have something
right.
compelling.
You have to have something.
Yeah.
But it's the same thing. Like if you said you're starting an Instagram account today versus 2014, that game's changed so much there.
Yeah.
If you go back far enough, because I was doing interviews right before the podcast, and maybe there was no, there was like radio shitter. But the issue with that is if I recorded an interview, you know, the little microphone stuck on the phone, not a cell phone, a regular phone, all that audio was the bandwidth went on our server space. And that was killing us because when it starts playing, even if you stop listening, it's still playing. So then our bandwidth, and it's like, fuck, I can't afford to do this.
Right.
This is killing us. And, you know, so if you went back too far, you can't afford to do it, right? And now when the other services come up, it's now the hosting is way less.
Yeah, it is.
You know, it's way more affordable with that. And as that becomes more and more affordable now, so it's so easy now for people to just start. And if they want to, I think they should, but they need to understand.
It is. It's easier now than ever. I mean, you can get microphones just about anywhere that plug into your computer. You can get
soundboards
soundboards. You can get free software to edit this stuff.
Phone.
Yes, you can use your phone. Your phone sounds better than a lot of microphones from not that long ago. And you can put it out there so easy and see if it resonates with people, or even see if you like doing it. You might do a few episodes and say, no, I'm over this. This is not my thing. But you might do a few and say, I have a lot of fun doing this. And people seem to also like what I'm saying, and then it's a cheap thing to get into and try. You don't need to have this huge elaborate business plan and all these crazy marketing techniques. Just get out there and put some out there and see what resonates with people.
Now with the apparel and the gym and then the podcast, well, I guess the next thing to touch on would be the content, which memes and stuff. That was before community, right? So the community came later. So it was the memes and all that. Were all these intentionally stitched together to be able to help all of it, to help Massenomics? Or was it like, fuck it, we're just going to do some memes?
I don't think there was that much of a good master plan behind it where we're really piecing the puzzles together. I think it was more like the more we started doing, the more we thought, what else can we do? You know, if we're really if we're not just fucking around here, we actually want to do something of any meaningful level or have some success here. What else can we do? And, you know, we start posting on Instagram, and then it's just a trial and error game, and we find out what we're having traction with, and we say, oh, we post some memes about it, then we post a picture of our t-shirt. We get some people to actually look at the t-shirt. We just post 10 pictures of our t-shirt. Nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
You know, everyone's like get the hell out of my feed with that. You know, but we
advertisement.
Yeah, we keep them interested. You know, they maybe find some humor in what we're doing, and then they come back and they see the shirt and they're like, yeah, that shirt's kind of funny too. Maybe these guys are all right. I'll buy one. But that was part of it, just trial and error, finding out what works. And also the memes and stuff just really fit in with our overall voice. You know, if you listen to the podcast, you think, these guys are kind of goofy.
Were the memes before the podcast?
Podcast was actually probably predates the memes a little bit. Even.
Yeah. I'd say the podcast was first, and the memes evolved, and it's just
it was just one of those things though, where you make a post and you just see how the audience responds to it, and you make a few memes and you're like, oh damn, we're getting some traction on this. People seem to like this.
So who started the memes? I mean, how did that start?
Tanner right here. If you're talking, Tanner makes 99.9999% of memes.
I love a good lifting meme. First of all, it's just funny. You know, what I got a lot of satisfaction in towards the beginning of that too is, say I make a Dave Tate meme, and you end up seeing it, and you say haha on the post or whatever. I'm like, you know, that was worth it. That, you know, that was
the early days. It'd be like funny memes about a certain person. Tanner screenshots it. Look who liked it. We're like, all right, we're getting some traction.
And there's just some kind of instant satisfaction and gratification. You can get way too caught up in the numbers of that stuff, because at the end of the day, sometimes you're like, well, okay, here's a number, it got bigger, but did that do anything for us or not?
And usually no, but
yes.
As an aggregate, it moves something.
Yes, maybe cumulative.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have to bring ourselves back to reality on sometimes, and remember what metrics actually matter and what ones are just for our own vanity of making ourselves feel a little bit better. And sometimes, like the follower subscriber thing, that is definitely not.
And we don't get too caught up in those numbers. We know they're vanity metrics. We know they don't matter, but at the same time, it's just another number to chase, you know, and that keeps you motivated to a certain extent too, to see things growing.
But the memes, I just like it. I think it's fun. You know, I just,
it's a way to offer commentary.
It's a lot though. You post what, twice a day? Twice a
day, every day for like 8 years. You know, we don't miss
how do you come up with before the community, like how do you come up with the ideas for this shit?
I mean, a lot of times a lot of times powerlifting's great at taking itself too seriously, so you don't have to work.
We just try to bring it back.
Just, what are people fired up about today? Okay, well, this is an easy one to twist on its head.
Well, especially a key thing I like to do throughout all the process is I like it too. If like, is this also making fun of myself a little bit? Because if it's also making fun of myself, people can't get quite as defensive, because I can say, they get pissed off in the comment and I'm like, well, me too. I'm talking about me. I'm not just talking about you. This is me.
Guilty as well.
Right. And then they're like, oh, okay, you're one of us. Then it's okay. Then maybe it's funny. But that's, I think, important to keep it rooted in something that people do. You want people to laugh with you, not get pissed at you when you do that stuff. And you ruffle a few feathers along the way, but ours mostly, I think, at most of the time, even the people it's directed at, they can get a laugh out of it. And that's what I like to see.
Well, it's still 2 every day. Like,
oh yeah,
I'm just thinking it because
it's a monster that always has to be fed.
yeah. Because I'm just thinking of just my own personal Instagram that I'll use and not use, and there were. Or with Twitter back in the day, it's like, okay, I'm just going to post a training tip every day. Then after like 50 tips, you're like,
do I have any left?
Fuck. Like, what do you do, but your brain just took a shit.
I get busy one day. It's easy to.
One of the things that helped me on doing that is finding recurring formats or themes. So one of the things that really helped us take off like our Instagram in the beginning, or not the beginning-ish, was this versus series where we just put we put Dave Tate versus Dave Chappelle, or we put Brian Shaw versus Terry Bradshaw, and we do all these
things that didn't belong together at all, and then just making this dumb comparison.
So then I know, like, well, every week I do one of those. That's one of my posts every single week. Then we do this rookie card where it takes a power lifter and we try and figure out what their numbers were for their first meet. We talk to them, get it reached out, try and find a picture of them from when they were 15 years old.
It takes more time than you can do on the toilet.
Well, it does. I would challenge to find many people that are more efficient, because every bit of everything that comes through that account, almost 99.9%, is made on my phone.
Yeah.
It is all phone, and it always has been.
He doesn't have Photoshop on his computer or anything.
Yeah, it's all
cutting things out with his finger.
Well, that's the best way to do it. I think for the algorithm, it's actually the best way to do it.
They like that more organic look, less polished.
But that's for sure. For anyone that wants to dabble in that, that's a hack. Is you strike when the iron's hot. You get an idea, you whip out your phone, you make it, you maybe save it for later, post it right away, whatever. But that's part of it, is though finding common themes that I can repeat and say, yeah, the rookie card did take more research and everything, but it was an idea I knew locked in that I didn't have to think about. I knew what the idea was. I just had to get the information. So it didn't have to be a novel idea every single week that I was coming up with. So that was a hack I still use to this day, is like, what can I repeat? And just kind of, I don't know, recycle. I don't want to make it sound like it's shit, but just like keep reusing over and over. And then people get used to it. And like people would come up to us at the Arnold, come to our booth and be like, Massenomics, I've heard of that before. And be like, are you the guys that, put those two stupid things against each other about lifters? And be like that used to happen all the time. Yep. They'd come up and say they knew us from that and be like, yep, that's us. And then, so the recurring theme had some value, I think.
All right. So with the creativity of that, we'll go back into the t-shirts. Where did the creativity of the t-shirts come from? Because the first one obviously is just the Massenomics thing.
Right.
But then you got a brand identity that you didn't even know you were creating, I'm sure.
Yeah,
but now there's a brand identity.
Yeah, that's much more Tommy, where he would come into the actual design. I can make shitty internet memes. I can't design a polished product here.
Printers don't take a screenshot from Instagram. The brand design was, we had no idea what the brand was in the beginning, and then we quickly figured out, it's just having fun, being goofy, whatever like that. And I was in my mid-20s at the time, drinking a lot of beer, partying with friends on the weekend, and like, okay, maybe there's something to this beer thing. Like, could we do beer and lifting? Is there some way we can mix that? And so we started doing this line of parody shirts, just parodying different beer brands. And that resonated with a lot of people. That's what really started to make apparel go, was people like, this is hilarious. This is so funny. And the shirts, the designs are so iconic, but it's this parody. So people recognize it, or a lot of times they might recognize it and do this double take thing. And then you see it click with them, and like, it's like they're in on the joke. And people were buying them for themselves as gifts. Like people just loved it. And that's what really got that side of things going.
So your background is, because it is the web design, but is it also in graphics and branding?
I went to a school for graphic design, actually.
Okay, all right. So because there's a distinct brand identity.
Yeah. So I got started in graphic design.
Okay, all right.
And so that's where we started going with things.
Okay, that I think that's important for people to know, because brand identity, because it doesn't matter what you're going to put on the shirt, your identity is still in that shirt. And I can't explain, you might be able to explain it, but I can't explain it because it is part of that identity. Like other t-shirt companies or those that want to do that need to think about that, right? Because
I mean, you got to have something like different, unique, fun. Like you got to have your own voice when it comes to t-shirts, because like we were saying, they are a dime a dozen nowadays. There's so many t-shirts out there, and a lot of them are just exact copies of, you know, stuff they're finding on Etsy, Amazon, whatever that might be. So you do got to have something unique that stands out, and it is a challenge. Like it's probably getting tougher every year to have that thing that's unique and people want to buy.
Well, there's the other side of that is if you get something that really hits, somebody's going to steal it. Yeah. You know, so you got to hope it hits and you can milk it before.
And we've had several instances of that. And I mean, we are in a space where a lot of times we are playing the parody game. So we can't claim 100% originality, but we are putting our unique, fun voice on this message. So we're adding something to it. And we've had several times over the years where people took our actual design and just like photoshopped out our logo and put theirs on. It's like, okay, you didn't add anything to this conversation here. You just took our work. And we've been lucky enough that we have the crew, the unpaid interns, that
they handle it.
They do. They do not like to see people ripping us off. And I mean, we're not telling them to go after them, but they know it.
There's been, you know, very large companies in the space that have done something that, you know, that we didn't like, you know, and we weren't gonna probably harp on it too much, but we don't have to handle it. Our people have handled it. You know, our crew has handled it for us, and then we have to say, okay, everyone, stop. You know, like that's enough.
Yes, it goes to the court of public opinion. And these companies can decide, do I like how that looks? And usually it's like, no, I don't like how that looks. I'll back off here.
Yeah, it's most of the time it's because I've had several that would go out and it's just filling out a takedown request, but then 9 other apparel. At a certain point, you're just like, you know, fuck it. You don't deal with it anymore.
Right.
You know, but sometimes there's been some of those that just boom, they pop, and you're like, you son of a bitch. But what are you going to do? You just got to create the next one. And just kind of keep going.
You just got to keep. I mean, that's really all you can do with all this. You just keep making more stuff.
Yeah. Let's take a bathroom break real quick, and we'll come back and get a little deeper in some of these things. This is Dave Tate from Elite FTS. Last year, we partnered with Ken Kanakin to co-host the Swiss Symposium. It's built on hypertrophy and sport medicine for strength athletes and practitioners to come together in one place, which will be the Columbus Hilton at Easton. You are going to learn how to level up your training based upon the success and failures of others. You have to stay on top of your game if you want to be able to make the success and move forward at the pace that you want. Just to name a few of the presenters that will be presenting, we're going to have Matt Winning, Brian Carroll, Eric Serrano, Jim Wendler. That's just a few. These experts will be presenting on low back injury and prevention, exercise selection, as well as a business, steroid recovery, and restoration panel. If you want to network with one of the experts that we have presenting, we're going to have people there to be able to help you do that. To register for the Swiss Symposium, go to the elitefts.com website, look for the banner on the homepage, click that, we'll see you there. One of the ways that you can support the podcast is by purchasing or picking up our limited edition apparel. The shirt that I have on right now is one of the only shirts that we've brought back for a second time. Normally we'll never do that, but the only reason we brought this one back for a second time is it sold out within 6 hours. So we brought this one back. We also got a second one that we just dropped. It's our, I guess, just Halloween edition shirt. Go to elitefts.com or go to the link in the description. This really does help us out because this directly supports the Table Talk podcast. Thank you guys. Enjoy the show. Now we're going to take some of these revenue streams. I guess is how I would define that, because it's my business philosophy is, you know, there's different ways people can do this. Is some people have like 9 companies. They'll say, I'm the entrepreneur of 9 different companies. Or you just have a new revenue stream, like the profit and loss, apparel, equipment, and so forth, where I kind of like that better because it's easier to financially manage and so forth, where you have these different revenue streams or content streams. They're all, I see them as revenue streams just because I see things in a P&L type of thing.
Yep.
And that would be the apparel, the podcast, the content in a way, because it kind of feeds into that, and the gym. Right. So now the gym probably might be separate. Is it separate?
The gym is the only thing
Yep.
that's not under it's
It's Massenomics Gym, but Tanner is the sole owner.
well,
operator.
my wife. Yeah, my wife too. She would correct me if I didn't say my wife.
Yeah.
Was the other, but that's the only one. And there's like liability reasons for the gym and stuff like that. And also the gym's kind of a pain in the ass, but I always liked that pain in the ass in a way. So I took that one on.
Yeah,
but
so Tanner's got that.
it's even still just in it's all
Part
the
of the
same
content
umbrella.
factory
Yeah,
of-
it all feeds into each other. But
I believe it does.
But absolutely, what you're saying is our philosophy. We don't need a separate. It's not. It's all Massenomics for us.
Yeah. And the gym can feed into the other things. Because in time it could be. I mean, for us, it's where content is. It's where events are. It kind of plays into all the things where. If we peel back and go a little bit deeper into some of these things, because a lot of the streams that you are in are streams that have become more and more popular, over a period of time. So a couple things I'd like to put out there is like the real world on how this shit works, so people have a better idea that it's not what you see on Instagram, and the work that kind of goes behind it, and maybe even a little bit of help and tips, for them with that. So let's start with the apparel. So when you got into the apparel, you're selling it out of your trunk, then you're selling it in meets and stuff like that, and then you jump online to be able to sell the apparel online. Now, with that, was there, and usually the answer is no, but at what point in time did there become a strategy with it as far as drops, timing, marketing, and so forth?
That actually took probably longer than it should have. We were just, we haven't released a shirt in a few months. Maybe we should make one. So we'd sit and think of an idea, do something. And then eventually it was probably, 3 or 4 years in, 2018, 2019. So we're like, okay, if we're going to treat this as a business, we need to actually treat it as a business. We need to start planning releases, have an idea of what's going to be here, start getting on top of this. So yeah, I'd say 2019 is when we really took an approach of let's do a drop every month if we can. Usually it's about 11 drops a year. And so that's when
So monthly?
Yeah, monthly drops.
Monthly,
for the most part, yeah.
They're different. They're all different. We try not to oversaturate. That's a balance we've learned in too. Once we start figuring out this drop thing, then it's like, well, let's have a drop all the time. Like a drop's
that's when the money comes in.
Yeah, so then it's like,
drops.
and then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a second, that is too frequent. Then our hardcore people, they got enough shit. We can't. We've had to find a balance in the timing of that, but we should for sure. I think you're right though. 2019ish. That's when we started to be more calculated about this and say, yeah, this is a real business. We did it for a lot of years before it was a real business. It was
just fun. It was just fun.
On paper, it was a business, as an LLC, it was a business, but there wasn't really money and we weren't really strategizing on any of that stuff. And I think about 2018, 2019, that's when we really shifted on almost everything at the same time, where it's like, oh no, we've got something here. Let's make this real.
Yeah. And so that goes to planning the monthly releases. When you have merch, getting that merch, shooting the photos for it, building the marketing for that merch, having email campaigns to go with it, deciding what time of day you're going to send it out. What does the social media strategy look like for all that too? So it's not just you make a shirt and you put it online and people buy it. There's so much behind the scenes.
It's even sizing, so on every shirt we sell, we're going to stock it from extra small to 4X. There's eight SKUs per shirt. And, we've developed over time a pretty accurate picture of what our customer, what our ratios are there, and we order pretty well now. A lot of time, if we order X number of shirts, we might get down to like 20 of them left, and we're still sitting stocked in 7 out of 8 sizes. But that's even just a small thing at first. We might order 100 shirts and we sell, we've got 60 left and we're already sold out of 3 sizes. Then we kind of fuck ourselves for selling the rest of them.
You just didn't know what to order at the time. But
Yeah.
you get those levers tweaked as time goes on.
How many items, when you started, how many items were a part of after you got serious about it, right? So how many items, because this is a tricky thing too, because you start probably more optimal, but then you end up becoming a clusterfuck, then you have to dial it back.
Yeah. I mean, we've always been fairly constrained in that way. Usually, so we'd always, for a while, we were adding at least one t-shirt every single month. Some months it'd be 2, and then we'd add a hat, a banner, flag, whatever, the third item in there. We usually try to have 3 items in there. And
do hats even sell?
Nah. Hats is a running joke at Massenomics, actually.
Well, I know how this works.
We first of all, no. Generally speaking, no is the shortest answer. But we actually had this is a social experiment we ran for a while. One time at the end of the podcast, this was maybe 3-4 years ago, something like that. I just said at the end of it, our closing thing where we say, go to Massenomics, buy our shit, support us. We need your help so we can keep going, that sort of thing. And I said, but because I fulfill all the everything that we got. And I said, you know what? But stop buying the damn hats. I can throw a shirt in a bag. I got to make a freaking box. I stamp the logo on it. I'm like, don't even buy them. I want to quit. I want to quit even having these things. I'm sick of them. Please, whatever you do not buy our hats. Our hat sales went up like 500%.
Yeah, there's a strategy.
It's the old
don't buy our hats.
Well, that's when you go to the
psychology.
That's when you go to the Arnold now. It became such a thing. Like on our price board, it's hats $25. Underneath of it in parentheses, it's printed "Don't buy." Yeah. People come up, they're like, "What? Don't buy the hats? Yeah. Who are you to tell me? What's the deal with that?" We sold. So we do. That we ended up selling more hats than we've ever sold before because of that.
The hats. That's why I asked, is because that's still one where people, man, you need a really killer hat. Like, I got one that's exactly like what you guys were asking, and we sold like 3.
Yeah, but it's like just slightly off the shade that person wants. Or it's like that's
just do a darker gray next.
Whether it's hats or shirts or whatever, that's kind of the running joke, and we try not to bitch too much because at the end of the day, these are still our customers and we are trying to make what they want. But it's just fun to talk about. It's like, well, I would have bought that, but you made it a hoodie with a pocket. I wanted a crew neck, in gray, in gray instead of black. And, in the logo, you put it on the front. I wanted that on the sleeve and on the back of the neck. If you would have done that, I totally would have bought one. And you're like, no, you fucking wouldn't have bought one. You weren't buying one.
Yeah. I don't even do the extra smalls or the 4X. I think we even stopped the 3X because as you're ordering like 1 and then people will bid because you'll order like 1X. I kind of get that, but you need bigger sizes, right? So then you order like 4X and nobody buy. I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize how expensive those blanks are for 4X.
Oh, yeah. I know.
You're buying a bed sheet.
And we don't charge additionally. Some companies charge more for bigger sizes. We're like, we'll just do it all across the board. It's like, you don't really make much money on those bigger sizes.
Well, I think the other thing that people don't understand with that too is your logo size isn't going to be able to expand or get smaller.
Yeah. Yep. You get one print and that's got to look good extra small through 4X. So
you make that in children's size?
I like it. Blaine Sumner wanted one time, so we had this like 5X made for him, and it's got our logo on it. And he sends us this picture of him holding up this freaking thing.
It was wider than the refrigerator behind it. There.
And it's got our logo that looks like it's like this big in the center of it. I'm like, that don't look good, but we're still happy to have you wear it. But
yeah. Okay. So you didn't get to the point where. Because the goal is to sell out of all the stuff that you bring in and to keep the numbers small enough.
And not just sell out. Like our goal is, to sell out. And if it's a good item and we're not billing it as a limited edition, we want to reorder that and let that be a perennial bestseller. Like that's the goal. Let's see how many bestsellers we can stock the store with.
Every 100 shirts.
Yes. They're hard to come by. But when you do have those are the bread and butter. That's what keeps things moving is that design that you can go back to and rely on to get those sales.
Okay, so with that thought going into that, with the marketing aspect, how do you play that out? So you have, obviously you need the apparel before you can start doing the marketing. And with the apparel images, what I found is that if you stick it on somebody, it doesn't sell as well than if it's just a blank that's with a blank background.
That's another trial and error one that it's tough because you're talking, what helps conversions online versus, when I say conversions, what helps when people go to your cart and see that picture and think, yes, that's a good looking product, I want to buy that, versus what does Instagram reward for showing to people online? And like you put that, I don't know. We talk about this every single drop to this day. I mean, we basically have this conversation once a month for how many years now, Tanner? And we're still never sure what is the best image that's actually Instagram's going to let us show, and that people will think, oh, this is a real product, not some dumb mock-up.
I'm always anecdotally theorizing of what I feel like is and isn't working. And every time I think, oh yeah, that's the ticket, we do it next time, fucking disaster, flop.
Well, Tanner has it pulled up here. This is one of the best experiments we've ever ran.
This is I don't know if you've seen this shirt. You'll appreciate it. I think you might have to, I don't know if you can read the small print, but it's our powerlifting record holder tee with the asterisk. And then the asterisk is by state, by age, by weight class, by, it starts getting down, and it's by,
it's got 10 qualifiers on it.
By zodiac sign, by phase of the moon, by occupation and everything. So I just made that as a joke, threw it on a crappy, phone edited image, and basically that almost identical design of what we're selling there today, but put that out. And I said, I put that shirt as the leading image, and it was a carousel. Then I put a few of our real shirts after it. This is fake thing, and then a few real ones. And I'm like, and in the comment, I just go, first one fake, next three real, and put that out there. It blew up. Like, we haven't had an image of a real shirt sell
for a piece of merchandise.
Yeah,
that thing went off. People buy. I want this. Make it. That's amazing.
Did they though?
So we're like, all right, all right. We've had 100+ people in here tell us they want to buy this damn thing. We'll make this shirt.
Yeah.
So we made the shirt. We had it a month later. Post the same thing. People reaction is crazy, and it sold.
It sold okay. It's paid for itself, and it's not a disaster, but it doesn't quite match the reaction.
Yeah, it's one of those things where just the vanity metrics don't convert to money. It's a thing that's out there, and it might mean something, it might not.
Well, I think for those people that want to do this, and there's many reasons why I think people get into apparel, especially in the powerlifting world. I think some influencers do it just as some way for their followers to say, I like what you do. Right. So it's more of a gratitude type of thing, but they end up not knowing what margins are. Right. So they have to know what their margins are, and then know where their break even is. Because to me, if it's our limited edition or something like that, it's a win if we broke even. Anything over that, well, you don't make profit. Obviously you don't make profit until you're over that. But if you can at least get that, it's not a loss.
Right.
And sometimes that doesn't happen either, but that depends upon quantity and all that. And you already alluded to this, but I'm going to reinforce it because it's the same thing that I've dealt with every design we've ever done. There can be a design like, oh, this is badass. This is good. This is good. And then there's like the second one, whatever. And then that one does well. And like, why?
Yep, you just don't. To date, have we done 100 some t-shirt designs?
Yeah.
And I don't know. Do we guess right on what was popular? Maybe half the time.
I don't even know. It might. We're probably bad under 50% on guess.
Because we probably in the beginning batted like 10%, and now it's 30 to 40. But you never know. It always changes.
Yeah. Yeah, we do not. We certainly don't have that.
But if you had that answer though, you'd be a millionaire. Like you'd have a multi-million-dollar apparel business.
Right.
You'd be selling a lot of t-shirts.
Which is weird because those businesses have no designs.
Right. There has, talking about the apparel stuff, and it has certainly gotten more challenging for us. Like, to be completely frank, in like 2023. It's been the most challenging it's ever been for us, since we've turned it into a real business, specifically the apparel. It is the most challenging.
And that's not to say things are going bad.
No,
what used to be like kind of easy, you just do a drop and people are going to buy it. Like, there's just so much more competition, and whether you say there's things in the economy, whatever these external factors are, things are different now.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe pivot's a dumb word and overused word and stuff. I don't know what you call it, but like, we've been able to make some changes even just in our concept of what Massenomics is. In 2020, if you asked us, we're an apparel brand, and we've got this podcast that supports that, and we try and put some content out there that supports that. In 2023, I don't know if that's what it is yet, but our shift has been more so, no, we're a podcast. We make content. We've been much more deliberate on YouTube specifically this year in 2023 to help support the podcast, to help that all circle back around to each other. We're a podcast that sells apparel.
Yes.
So if you like our podcast, you like our content, you might support us through our apparel like you were talking about before. Whereas before, our thought was we're an apparel company. Let's also do this podcast. Maybe that gets a few more eyes in the door. But I think that we're starting to have a shift, partly because it's what like the market is telling us we are, like whether that's what we want to be or not, that's what we're kind of finding out. And we're having more success with the podcast, and we're having more people, come through our paywall and that want to support us. And the dollars and cents start to tell us that more and more all the time too.
It's a tough shift because it's basically the world that I'm in, because we are and have always been a content company first that was supported by the products that we sell. Right. So when it was articles and the Q&As and training logs.
My story about that, I remember the first time I can't remember if it's your Twitter account, Elite FTS, whatever it was, in, probably 2010, 11. I remember coming across it, and you'd always post these links to articles on the website. And I just could not get my brain it did not make sense to me that why does this company that's selling equipment have all these articles? Like, these have to be scam articles, or like there's no way an equipment company puts this much work into making content, because that was so unusual at the time. That didn't exist. And I just couldn't believe that it was real. It didn't seem to make sense.
Well, to be completely transparent, the marketing strategy from the jump wasn't as defined as what it should have been, because the way I could explain it that most people would understand is kind of like InfoWars, right? Where all the supplements and shit that the whack motherfucker crazy, that's what pays for all the content that he puts out there. And he's very, very upfront in every 5 minutes. Well, you can't listen to it because every 5 minutes is another supplement ad, but it's very out there that if it wasn't for this stuff doesn't exist. And I didn't lean into that soon enough for people to really understand that. And there's also the reality of the perception online that content just appears for free.
Because it is becoming so prolific. I mean, there's just content out there for everything. It's just, people do think of it as free because how can there be that much if it's not free?
Yeah, but they, with say the articles and stuff back then, they don't understand. Somebody's got to pay for the bandwidth. Somebody's got to pay the editors. Somebody's got to. There's people put that. There's an expense that goes into that, and that pivot. It's good that you're pivoting it and people are understanding it, because that's been a hard one over the last. Probably since 2020, I've really tried to pivot that message out there, because they'll see Elite FTS and they say, well, here's your competitors, Rogue, Sorenex, and all this. And like, nah, not really. Like, the competitors would be like T-Nation, bodybuilding.com, and all these other people, except we don't have a paywall, and it's out there because this pays for this. But it is the direction. I mean, that's how we've always been. It's just my marketing of it wasn't good. Right. To be able to drive that point home. Right. So then I got stuck in this, you're comparing this to this. It's just, we just happen to sell very high quality stuff because the content's quality too. I don't want good quality content and then selling cheap shit, because then that's going to make the content look like it's cheap, which is already the perception because it's free, which I don't want to say free anymore. I want to say complimentary. Because of that aspect of that. But that's the right thing, because the main driver, the podcast or whatever the content is, that will change over time. I mean, for me, it was articles, and then actually just articles from the jump, and then training logs, coaching logs, and times change. Facebook, came up, Instagram comes up. So training logs become not popular because you can see that on Instagram. There's the coaching logs aren't popular because you can just go to the coach's Facebook page. Not complaining about all that, because they're still getting the Q&A became not essential because you could just go ask people the questions wherever they wanted to. Right. So figuring out that pivot, like, how do you now pivot that into these other areas? YouTube's the best example that I can throw out there, at least from our part, because you'll understand this being in the web space, is the embed of the video in the article is I don't have to pay for that.
The
right?
hosting is covered here.
It's a fucking embed. They're paying for. I don't give a fuck about YouTube.
Yeah.
I I have the embed file to complement the article that's out there. And then and I remember people back then like, man, you need to get people to go to your YouTube. I'm like, no.
I want them to come to my website.
I want them to go to my fucking website.
Right.
No, I'm not going to put a banner ad on my site.
Like go to YouTube, like leave the website.
You know, but that's changed, over a period of time. So now you got to figure out the metrics and the conversions and all that kind of coming back to all that. But that for anybody getting the content world, they need to think like that. Like, here's the content. Can you monetize it? Most people are not going to be able to monetize the content, or they can monetize some, but not others. It's a weird, that's a whole different, that's what I tried to avoid from the very beginning, because I didn't want this long 10-page long form copy that's leading people to click here. So then you can go here and read the rest of the article, which is actually the same article you can read someplace else, for free. But this can be monetized. Fuck all that. I don't want to deal with that. I just want to put this out here so people can get stronger, and then maybe they'll buy some wraps, straps, or whatever it's going to be, and then that pays for all that. But over a period of time, that doesn't pay for all that anymore, right? Because then the expense there gets so high, and then people are like, well, why can't you do more podcasts? Right? Well, we can't because we got to hire more people.
Right.
And
like, this doesn't happen accidentally right here. Like,
yeah. Like one person's salary for a year it's a lot of $1 per month Discord members. It's a holy fuck. There's other ways around all that and it creates that flexibility to whatever. Now it doesn't have to be the t-shirt or the hat that don't sell or the shorts that don't sell. It can be whatever. Like, you guys like this, well, here this is, and it helps supplement the podcast that they like.
Right.
So that's why when I started the questions, how they all work together, right? I think you figured out how they're really supposed to work together. Because if you're going to compete in that apparel front, or if I'm going to compete just on the equipment front, that's it. That's a different business model. Way different.
Right.
Now it's like, does the content really even help sell that? Some. And
it's really hard to say, like, to what level, like at the, what does it? In theory it does, but it's hard to pinpoint how much is that helping? If it's, that's the thing with any of the content stuff. It's always hard to draw the analytics back of what is it doing?
And if you want to go over marketing speak, your funnel is so much deeper than ours. Ours is, that's a funny meme. Oh, and there's a t-shirt in there. That's funny. Cool. Click buy. That's how simple it could work. Who's going to see, oh, that was a helpful article. Oh, they make a mono too? Okay, I'll buy that. That's not how that conversion works.
No, it's a longer,
you got to build
term with that.
It's build a lot more trust.
Funnel. And then they got to know, this is the other problem. They have to know there's stuff that we actually sell,
right?
To be able to support that. But back to that, the apparel with what you were saying there, I think it's also important for people to know there's, and this is anything in business, right? And even content, there's way more misses than hits. Don't get frustrated about it. Just get frustrated if they're all misses,
right?
Because then maybe your shit just.
You got to limit yourself.
Seriously though, that's something you have to think about at sometimes. Is it maybe it's not just that thing? Is there something we're doing wrong outside of just is it bigger? Or is it an individual problem here? So, because sometimes I think that's a good point. If you're batting freaking 20%, and then it's is this something in general that people even want or not?
Yeah. And are you emotionally attached to it?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, the market's telling you right now they don't care. And is it because they don't know about it, or is it because people really don't care?
Yeah.
An entrepreneur, when I said emotionally attached, an entrepreneur can become so emotionally attached to that, though, that they're going to think in their mind my marketing, I still haven't figured the marketing out.
I know it's good.
It's good.
I know it's good. And we do that. We have that conversation
and there's
sometimes.
Some of that. There is some of that. There's always cases of that where, people just, you don't have it positioned right, or the right people don't know about it. It hasn't got out. But I mean, you got to be able to look inside once in a while and have that that talk with yourself. And
I think we're pretty realistic people, and we check and I think we both are pretty realistic about things, and we check and balance each other pretty well in that way that like I don't know. I don't think either of us gets like wild ideas, or, just we're
pretty even keel on all this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, have a good logo and put it on a black shirt. You're good. Go outside of black. You're
saying the t-shirt. You can have any color t-shirt you want as long as it's black.
As long as it's black, 100%. Like I would have bought that had it been red.
No, you do all these black t-shirts. The first time a red one comes out, oh man, if it was in black, it's like the last 50 were in black.
Yes, exactly. That's with white print, black with white print. So there's some general basics on there. And God, we can go down this rabbit hole forever. One of the other things with the apparel that you mentioned that is kind of an issue now is the quality control as well.
Oh shit!
As far as the sizing of certain things.
We are dealing with that right now. Like we're trying to address it specifically right now because we are having issues.
We use. I won't go into too many details, but we use the shirt that when we talk to our contemporaries, it's the same shirt everyone uses, essentially. And we'll come out with one release. The people in the Discord will say, that's the best fitting shirt you've ever had, which is the same shirt we've been using the last 5 years.
Yeah.
The next month, the exact same shirt will come out and be like, I don't know what you guys picked this month, but this shirt sucks. It's like, it's the exact same shirt that we had the month before this and the month before that and the month before that. And
it's gotten to the point where they make me a meme of me saying, it's the same blank we always, what's that called when people write like lowercase letter, uppercase letter, lowercase letter?
Yeah,
they do that of me saying it's the same blank we always use because that's what they know me as. Like, it's the same blank we always use because it is the same blank we always use. But they're right in that there is a quality control
and I don't
issue
know,
right now.
I'm not sure. It's hard to get straight answers, but it seems like these manufacturers, overseas that are making these shirts are either trying to cut costs on material, thickness, whatever they're doing something because it's obvious.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
Yeah.
The only way that you can really combat that is to have boots on the ground there.
Right.
We're not gonna do custom. Yeah, we're not gonna do custom cut and sew t-shirts.
Because your sample was perfect.
Do you want a $50 t-shirt now? No, you don't. Trust me.
But we're working. I mean, everything changes. Quality control probably gets better. We find a different maker. There's solutions to that. Sometimes the solution is, hey man, I know you think you're an XL, but the last 5 shirts you ordered, you think this cut is too small on all of them. Order a 2X, see what you think. And they're like, well, but I'm an XL. Well, just try a 2X. Yeah. And they get it and they're like, oh yeah, that actually, that's the case for that's anecdotal experience. I'm like, I said it as an example. I'm like, well, I wear 3Xs now, and then they just fit. All of a sudden, I'm like, yeah, this fits actually what I thought the 2X used to be like. Now it just fits right. I like it again.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's as simple as that too.
Well, they could have also got fatter.
That should happen.
Your lifting's been going good, right? Yeah, you're beefing up.
Yeah, like my arms don't fit as tight as what they used to. Well, maybe your arms are smaller. Crazy shit like that. You mentioned earlier, and I made a note down here about the metrics with social. So social's a weird thing because there's a lot of different social networks. So we'll just stick with like Instagram.
Right.
With those, when you're looking at the metrics, because there's the metrics of the post, but then there's also the conversions of how it relates back. And Instagram's a tough one because if you're trying to even look at Google Analytics to see what the click-throughs are, it doesn't correlate to the sales.
Honestly, their own analytics don't seem to correlate a lot of times.
No, but it's one of the metrics I've always used is the click-throughs from a social media back to be able to see. But Instagram was always, you got stories in the links or link tree or whatever it is. That I always knew that was not true because if I posted something in a story that was at the right time, kinda, I can physically see them going there. I can see the jump on Google Analytics, but then when I look at the numbers, I'll be like, wait a minute, this is not what I saw.
Right.
Because if I was to go just off those metrics, a long time I would have been, fuck Instagram. It's not doing there's nothing coming through, but that's the only place this was posted. And then it sold through,
right?
Which makes that, especially with Instagram, hard when you have all these metrics to kind of go by. Are there any metrics on Instagram at all that you found even a spurious correlation?
What do you think, Tanner? I'd like to know.
My gut instinct answer on that is honestly no. Like there really isn't. I track them all. I look at them all the time, and which is funny. I'm saying like no, but yet I still want to track them and I still look at them. So that makes me think maybe no isn't my honest answer. Maybe I do think that there's value, but I can't pinpoint anything in particular. But I can say overall, once you track it long enough, you pay enough attention to it, you get a feel for maybe what it's doing. It's less of a specific analytic, a specific number that you know is working.
You have a baseline,
but you almost get a sense.
In your head.
Like it's more just like this overall feel. You're like, yeah, I can just tell something's working with that. I'm monitoring. I can see the correlation in time of posting this and what it did to sales. And you can tell, you feel it. Like you said, that's the only place it went out at.
Yeah.
So it. And in all the analytics go into a little bit, but overall, no, there's not like an individual analytic there that I can say is doing shit. And actually like with Instagram specifically, a year ago or 8 months ago, we started to fall off a shelf where we couldn't gain a follower. We were doing everything. We couldn't get a post. We can get 500 people to look at one post.
Well, I mean, you can just see it. We track that number every single month, and you can just see it just dropped off. It died. It's like our account didn't even exist.
And then, like 4 or 5 months ago, we made no dramatic change in what we were doing. We started to feed into a little bit what we noticed was working, but it suddenly, like the followers again, it's like the heaven gates open again, and they're like, no, you can have followers again. We're going to send them your way, and it's all of a sudden we're in a little period right now where it's working great.
So
and
it's like, did we stop being funny for 6 months, or was there something behind the scenes going on? And
right,
I haven't seen followers convert to sales at all.
No, and that being said, I don't think that is.
But it's even just the idea of engagement. Like, okay, if we're making stuff, do people even? Are they talking about it? Are they liking it? Is it getting shared around at all? Like, is just awareness even happening? And for a while, just the engagement awareness was in the dirt.
Right.
Yeah.
And now that's moving again. And you're right. We talk about this all the time. We have a reel got 1 million views. Sales were shit that day. And like that happens all the time. And those numbers don't convert, but it is just one of those things. You keep your finger on the pulse and you want to see that it's doing something.
Yeah. So I've always tried to figure out what that gut feeling is. And then is there anything that kind of correlates with that? Because they change algorithms all the time reels were the shit for a long time, right? And they had the bonus with the reels. But as soon as they took away the bonus with the reels, then the reels didn't become a driver like they used. I don't even think they do shit anymore, where now it may be slide post. It's you got to always play around with it to be able to see, where a slide post is like 5 times the work for one post. So it's like, it's a different thing So with Instagram, what other platforms are you putting time in that you're actually creating content in that platform's voice? Yeah,
TikTok is not that, where that's that's a throwaway for us at this point. We're putting stuff on there, but it's
Instagram posts.
No, it's not. What the hell's the Instagram Twitter that came out here a little threads? No, we're not doing that. We got it and we looked at it, and followers go up all the time. I think it's just like they're doing what they need to do through Instagram to get people to show followers on there. So we're not doing there. X, used to be Twitter. That's a no for us.
Don't do anything.
The one thing we've been really trying, I know it's kind of a separate animal though, is YouTube, where we post the podcast video every week. We've done that for like 7-8 years now. But then just here in 2023, we're doing one separate dedicated video every single week in addition to the podcast, whether it's a vlog or us talking about something in the state of powerlifting or whatever it is. But that's the one we're focusing on the most, and we think it has the most potential for value for us back in return. And we can do a lot of stuff with that content. Then, like if you're starting with YouTube, then you can use that down the funnel. If your start is YouTube, you can pull things there for Instagram. So it's kind of becomes a double whammy for us. We get to start with the YouTube, then we get to use it for the Instagram in bits and pieces. And
a lot of times it's something we can talk about on the podcast again, depending on what the topic is.
Yeah. And to be honest, we have not had great success with the YouTube taking off so far, but we're using the theory. Well, we're just going to keep hammering like the podcast. We podcasted for 3 years in succession without anything there. I think we're in the mindset now. We just have to keep doing it. Maybe 6 months isn't long enough. Maybe we have to be consistent for 18 months before we see anything there. And that's our strategy, is just keep doing it with consistency.
Yeah, YouTube's a weird one, because when I look back on that, when we were talking about the embed files and just not giving a shit about that, I didn't give a shit about it because it was a younger demographic. I'm like, well, it's not in the age demographic of who our customers are. So it's there, whatever's there is there, but whatever. Where I fell short on that thinking was people get older.
Yeah,
so
they grow up.
Yeah, so it maybe at that time it wasn't, but now it was. But somebody's now one up on me because they cared about them before I did, which fucks with my head with things like TikTok and Threads and all this other stuff because, well, that's a younger demographic. I'm like, yeah, but
right now,
will this be their platform still 10 years from now?
Yeah, where it's a battle, but what I see is there's two types of content which are popular now, and that's obviously the very short but long form.
Yeah,
right. The in the middle is, now it may just not be popular because it's not being pushed algorithm wise, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, but I don't particularly care for the short form, right? But so I feel really good that the long form does well, right? Because I don't buy everybody's attention spans too short now. Because if that was true, then the long form,
this wouldn't be thriving the way it is.
Yes, or your podcast or any other podcast for that matter.
And the long form gives you the time to actually build that trust, get to know people, and make that relationship. Like, you can't. People might know us from like a few memes, but it's like, okay, they make a few memes, like swipe through, all right, on to the next thing. It's listening to the podcast, finding out there's real people behind it. That's what actually gets people engaged in the brand. Yes.
So staying on the podcast, because you said there was like years or whatever of building with all that, knowing what you know, tricky because knowing what you know now, assuming that you had the technology now that was available, what would you have done different from the podcast side? I guess I could say if somebody's going to start their podcast now, or they're
right,
and they have something worthy, they're just not blowing shit. They care. Actually, no. Let's back that up. Maybe because this will be a deeper conversation. Just that they want a podcast. They think it's going to be a cool thing to do. So just from the technical part, what advice would you have?
Oh, to me, the technical part, that shouldn't even be the hurdle anymore. Whereas 10 years ago, that was a bit of a hurdle. Yeah. Now it's, you want to do it. All right, go to Best Buy, hop on Amazon, buy a $20 USB microphone, or 3 of them, however many you need for you and your buddies. You sit down, you record the thing into your computer. If you have a Mac, you can use GarageBand, you can download whatever it is online for free. You edit the damn thing, you put it online, and then get it out there. Like, the technical hurdle is not an excuse anymore. And even we talk about for video, like video, it's starting to be less of an excuse too. It takes time, but the technical hurdle is something that I think is maybe a crutch for people to rely on. I mean, really, it's the message. Like, people can there's all types of people that have, a great example. Sam Sulik, which is just a remarkable case. I mean, there should be like a Netflix documentary on this in 10 years.
Like, what is going on?
I mean, we could talk about this for an hour straight.
It has to be the thumbnails and titles, right?
Yeah, right. Great example. We spend all this time worrying about the thumbnails and titles. Look at what this guy's doing.
Yeah.
It's like day 53 of the cut, and how much you
236.5 pounds.
I'm still of the mentality that at the end of the day, it always comes down to content. Like, content is king. Like, if you have a good message, people will, no matter how bad the quality is, people can get past a lot of that. And then, you can refine things through expensive cameras and nicer microphones. But if you don't have anything compelling to say, people aren't going to listen in the first place. So,
I would add in there now, if they're going to do a podcast, they may as well throw it on YouTube as well.
That's absolutely yes. There's no reason not to.
Yeah,
you absolutely.
You don't even have to have video. Just put a random thumbnail, put a picture on, and just let the audio play.
I use Libsyn. I mean, most of these will just push it straight there anyway.
Yeah. So however you need to do that, and put it on Spotify too. Most hosts will, you push the button, it goes on Spotify. You got to put your stuff where people can find it. I mean, that's kind of the step one of it, but yeah, outside of that, it really just comes down to you got to have something that people are interested in.
Yeah, what I would say is this isn't technology related, but the number one thing in our case, we were not coming into this as we've talked about a little bit about our lifting history. You know, we're average power lifters, like depending on your term of average, but we're nothing special power lifters. We're not, prior to what we sort of built up, we were not influencers in any way. I still think the number one factor for what we were able to use to get a little bit of the success we have is the consistency. And people talk about it and they harp on and they say it a lot, but like that's 100% our recipe is doing it every single week forever, basically, you know, like without stop.
Yep. Podcast every single week forever. 2 Instagram posts every single day forever. This year, YouTube video basically every single week the whole year so far. Like I mean, we're good at grinding stuff out. We'll just keep working
because we don't have
we don't have the audience. We don't have a
built-in.
Yeah, we're not influencers. We don't have that built. We can't post a picture on Instagram and have 10,000 people like it and tell them to all go buy this thing. And we don't have that. So we have to, and we don't have access, you know. We're here with you, which is amazing, but we're in Western Northeast South Dakota. We can't just drive down the road and do a collab with this guy and meet up with this guy. So we just had to be more creative in the way that we come at things. And that involves just doing a lot of work and being consistent.
I think the lost message with the consistency part is it makes you get better. Right, because you guys are repetition.
It's that instant test. You know, the pass or fail. You'll find out in a hurry. If the post were what we first started with, it'd just be random videos of us deadlifting in the gym like once every once a week, and then here's a photo of this new piece of equipment. Like it'd be boring. That no one cares about that. But you figure that out in a hurry because you put it out there and you realize, people don't care about this. Let me try something else.
And if you're new to Massenomics, you know, go listen to one of our first 50 episodes of the podcast. You know, please do. Like, I'd happy to have you check it out, listen to it, then come back to one of our last 200 and you'd be like, that is so far not the same. You'll be like, is that really the same people? We talk so differently and with such like a different
people really get on Tanner for his thick South Dakotan accent.
But even just like
just timing,
everything about it. You can honestly, if you listen to me and the old ones, you'd be like, I'm not positive if that's the same person.
Yeah, you
might actually think it's not the same person because it's changed that much. Yeah.
With the podcast going down a different avenue, so that takes care of getting started because it's way easier.
Right.
What are the things about podcasting do they not know that they should know? You know,
unless you have a big name, no one's going to listen to you in the beginning. Just know that no one outside of maybe your 4 closest friends are going to care about your podcast at all. And no one will probably care for the first, 6 months. And that's why no one makes more than 50 episodes of a podcast because it's work. And they're like, I'm doing all this work for nothing. Okay, whatever. But you have to be prepared to accept that unless you have a built-in audience, you're fighting a battle with thousands of other podcasts. So just be prepared for very little traction in the beginning.
How much prep work do you put into the podcast?
So we have a shared.
We use Asana.
A task management software. Like we have an account. We log in. If a random idea hits us during the week, we'll throw it in there. Usually keep it pretty cryptic and short so the other guy doesn't know what we're talking about.
He might want some notes, but he doesn't want me to know everything he's thinking because we want to talk about this organically.
Yeah, we want it to be organic.
You know, and I'm the same way. I might throw some notes in there, but not too much because I don't want him to know everything that I'm thinking about this week.
Yeah, his might just say lifts, and I have no idea what he's going to talk about there. Something like that. So like we'll every night we usually record on Wednesdays. Record at 8:30 at night. Usually 7:50, 8 o'clock. We'll hop on a Zoom call together.
Got about 45 minutes of
just shoot the shit for like the first half hour, and then the podcast is going to start in 5 to 10 minutes. Like, all right, what do we got to talk about this week? We have 4 topics in there. I don't know what those 2 are. You don't know what my 2 are. That's enough to get us going. And then we have this guest on. We need to make sure just to talk about these 4 things with the guest or whatever that might be. And that we've done this so long, we can kind of play off each other. We know how we respond to things. That can get us an hour and a half easy. Yeah. And then the guest gets done, and sometimes depending on what mood we're in, we could talk for another 45 minutes to an hour about just stupid shit then. Like, it's whatever.
There is we've had a couple hundred guests on at this point, powerlifters, strongman, equipment manufacturers,
personalities.
We had you on the podcast before, and there is the most research is that, because I don't need to know everything we're going to say once we have a guest on, but guests are all so much different. After interviewing a couple hundred people, I found out we've come across so many different types of personalities and so many different types of people, the way they are interviewed, the way you can interview different people. And so I need at least, say 10. I'm kind of throwing a number out of the air, but I need 10 go-to topics, ideas, things that we could explore with a person.
And because we have 45 minutes and we like to keep things fun, we usually try to stay away from how did you get your start? Like, what was your early trials? And so many other podcasts cover that, and they can go more in depth and get more touchy-feely on that. Like, we don't have the time capacity to do that. Like, we try to keep it light and just, if anything, we try to knock people off their regular track and to get them to go in a direction that they're not typically used to on a podcast.
I'd say that's definitely our interview style. If the earlier in the interview that we can get someone knocked off track, that you can almost see it in people's eyes. They have this revelation of like,
I can go off
I kind of see what's
here.
going on here. Like, these guys are I see what they're doing to me. And I do like, even if it's not intensive research, I want a few topics that they're going to be like,
yeah, like they had this one. They had that one Instagram post in 2016, and like in the corner of it was this screenshot of this album on their iTunes, and you like make a comment like, "How did you know about that?"
Yeah.
That's when you get the good reactions from people, because that's how they live their lives. The other 99% of the time, they're not in the gym.
So if I'm to peel this back for people that want to do a podcast, this is what I'm hearing, right? So for you to have because your podcast style is the first 15 minutes, 20 minutes, you're just talking about whatever is going on.
Usually it's Massenomics housekeeping. What the hell's been going on with Massenomics?
Yeah. Well, it's that. It's also what's been kind of going on with powerlifting or strongman.
Right.
So for you to even have that conversation, you have to be following what's going on in the industry, right?
Absolutely.
Yes,
yeah.
right.
And I don't even consider that doing our homework. That's just, we're in,
the bare minimum.
If we don't give a shit what's going on with anything, what are we even doing talking about any of it?
But it is research, right? So it is, and you'll see where I'm going here in a minute. So you have all that. Then if you have a guest, you have to invite them, schedule them. You have to do all that.
That's a process too.
There is a process, right? And that's more than what people think it is.
Yes.
And then you have to know something about the guest, like you're going to their Instagram trying to find a post. This would be a good thing to put in there. You're also trying to figure out what have they've already been asked a million times before, so you don't do that. So there's the prep time that goes into that. So all this, because where I'm coming at from this is a lot of people are like, because I know this firsthand because I've been on podcasts. I also know firsthand because I listen to a lot of podcasts of guests that I have before they're here.
Right.
So I see,
and we do that too. And that's homework. And sometimes I forget what is this homework? Really it is.
Just for example, just for this, we're sitting down and we're like coming up with all these things. And we're like, why are we coming up with just questions and questions to ask
for you?
He's the one interviewing us. So why are we coming up with
we get in this habit where we're like, no, we have to be prepared.
This is how we prepare for a podcast. We come up with our list of questions. And
that's part of the podcast. You see, if I'm on somebody's podcast, I'm going to go listen to it, so I know. And if I was to estimate, if somebody's really doing their work on that, it might be 2 to 3 hours of prep time for every hour of podcast time. I don't think a lot of people just start like, oh fuck it, I'm going to wing it. Right. I'm going to get this guest, and we're just going to go from there. And then the guest is like, man, you know who the I don't Olympic lift.
Right.
It's like, what the fuck, and well, I'm sure you do it because if you're going back to listen to other people's podcasts that they've been on, and you're like, oh my God, this is terrible.
Or it's just like, I already heard this podcast. You did it with that guy and you did the same one with the guy before that. And the guy, like, this is nothing new.
Well, it also helps to prepare you to know how the guest will answer. Some people are very short-winded.
Yeah.
And that there's a strategy for that. Then there's ones that are very long-winded, which thank God, because this is easy, but there's a strategy there, you got to kind of work all that through. And this is all part of the podcast game that if they start, they're going to fuck it up. I'll just wing it, whatever it's going to be, but that's only going to get you so far.
And we've, we've talked about this, even we don't kind of, this happens without us realizing or thinking about it, is we didn't start a podcast to be interviewers of strangers, but that's what we
didn't have an interview until what, 180 episodes in or something
like that. I mean, a couple small ones here, people like tight connections, but that wasn't and stuff really like part that.
Of the format.
No, and it's weird. Sometimes I think about it that's what we do now. Like every week we sit down, so it might be virtual over Zoom or whatever, but we sit down for like 2 hours, and about an hour of that is going to be talking to a stranger.
Someone we've never even spoken to directly before. And you're just going to get right into it. And it's not weird when we do it, but it's weird when I think about that's what we do. It's odd. Well, if you told, you're like, oh, honey, I'm going to this place. I'm just going to go talk to this guy. I have a list of questions. We're going to talk for an hour, and then we just won't talk for probably a while again. Like that sounds like an odd concept when you say it out loud, but it's what we do.
Yeah, it is just what we do now. It's weird though, and there's such different styles with people. I almost get a kick out of it's like when you're podcasting, when you're the interviewer, it is a weird balancing act. You're listening to them. You got to be knowing what they're saying.
Just pause for a minute. Yeah. That's huge, by the way.
Right. Well, hopefully you're listening. That would be my advice. You need to listen to them. But while you're listening to them, you're thinking about, we're doing it right now.
You're spooling up the direction for, okay, all right. That's interesting. Do we go down that road? But I also planned out this road. What way are we going to go here?
And then while you're doing all that, you're analyzing what this person's technique is like. So you're knowing, okay, this person is going to be very short. So when I dig into stuff, we might need to dig into the 10th level of this, because I need more from this. And how do I get more out of this person? How do I get them to kind of go where I might want to go, what I think people are going to find interesting to get off the surface level? Or the alternative, you're figuring out, I got to adjust quick. This person's going to go for 30 minutes on everything. So we need to hit the highest points here.
There are no quick answers. So if I ask a question, it better be an important one, because they're going to run with that for a while.
Yeah. Have there been resources or sources that you've gone to be able to enhance your interview skills?
See, that's a question I actually wanted to talk to you about, because I feel like you have changed as an interviewer over the years, and like the average person might not pay attention because they just are entertained and they want to be informed and educated.
Tune in, check in,
but I listen to here's my resources. I listen to Table Talk. I listen to Stronger by Science with Greg Nuckols. I listen to Brian Shaw do an interview. I listen to all this stuff and watch it on YouTube, and I kind of see what they're doing. I watch what you're doing, and how do we interpret that?
Even people outside the space too.
I watch, what is Jimmy Fallon doing? What did David Letterman do? Because then I think about it more like, no, we are just an interviewer of people.
Yeah. And they have like their own little bits, and we have our own little bits we rely on too. Like, all right, we need to change it up here. Let's throw this in quick, and that can maybe get things going too.
And our format, I think that's more closely what we follow. If you're a guest on it, this is actually what we talked about from this onset of when we started to interview people. It's more like you're a guest on late night television. Jay Leno has a show. He has a show. He brings on a guest eventually. He talks to the guest. He has a show again.
Yeah.
And that's what we modeled it after. And he has a guest on. Some guests, he's going to interview the guest, but then he's going to play a fun game with the guest too. Get the guest like in a different zone than they might normally be. And that's really what I think that we do. And that's what I think we try and replicate a little bit. But really, like I said, I listen to you, and I have noticed you approach it differently than you used to. And what I wanted to know is, what resources were you going to? Because I feel like you're doing deliberate things that you had to have specifically learned somewhere, that I'm like, I notice he changed that. I notice you dig in differently than you used to, where I'm like, he's getting them to say something that he's kind of liking, but they're not quite going all the way yet. And you force them. It can almost seem uncomfortable. Like if you're the interviewer, it can seem uncomfortable because you're thinking, no, I'm really going to put this person on the spot. You know, they're kind of going there, but I want them to go further. So they might give you an answer and you say, well, no, tell me more. You're not like giving me the story. And I feel like there was a point in time where you started to do that more. So I wondered where if you took something where you changed that, because I feel like I noticed a change.
Oh yeah. Because if I'm going to go way back, I mean the Table Talk was basically originally was just like a YouTube thing, me sitting at a table answering questions, and it was much easier to do that than tapping them all out. I can just film it, tap it out, put it out. And then Josh was like, oh, let's put this on YouTube. Like, whatever. Give me the question. Actually, before that, it was called From the Mill because I was doing an ass load of cardio.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
So I just put my fucking phone or camera up there and I just answered questions for my Q&A and then put it that way. Then I quit doing cardio. I'm like, well, fuck, I guess I'm just going to sit at a table and just do the same thing.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of like the first iteration. And then there was another, well, actually before that, Mark Watts was doing the Sport Performance podcast. And that was just interviewing people over the phone. I didn't know shit about that. So that I don't even consider that the Table Talk podcast because it was something different. But I kind of saw what was going on with that. Then when I started with the Table Talk, whatever, I think Dan Green was the first one.
Yeah. I remember that.
It was that beginner mindset, like just fuck it. I'm going to sit down and just wing it and just talk to them and just see where this goes. And then that ended. Those were not good. Right. If I go back, those were not good. And a lot of those earlier ones were probably me trying to stroke my own ego, getting them to ask something that I wanted to talk about. Right.
Yep.
And so it really wasn't about the guest. It was more about stroking my own ego and me thinking that the people just want to hear from me. This is just somebody I just want to talk to. So there's no prep, nothing in there. And then there was a middle range where I had a co-host and that kind of came about because in my brain, I thought, well, if I get older and the demographics younger, they don't really give a fuck about me. I need to have somebody in between that's closer to their age. That thought was a mistake, right? Not that Sam was a mistake. That's not at all. He did a great job with, that part of all that. That was me not really seeing what people wanted. And then when he left and it was going to just go back to me again, I'd have this conversation with myself. Like, do I really want to do this? Because I can't just wing the shit. If I'm going to really do this, then I have to do this. And what's that look like? Right. So that's where that biggest turn started.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I need to interview people. And then they're the most important part of this conversation.
Right.
Not me, but them. So how do this is where things got crazy. Cause like, how do you interview people?
Yeah.
So then you start searching that and it's all about job interviews.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, this is the wrong
not
prompt.
That kind of, yeah, right.
This is not the right prompt.
Yeah.
And then, well, how do you interview people for a podcast? And it's all technical shit. Like, well, have this structure, do this. This isn't what I fucking want either. And then journalism, I started looking into journalism. Like, what does journalism look like? Like, okay, it's kind of like that, but it's longer form. So it's not because journalism's concise, like get this.
Yeah.
And so it's been a process of that. Like, how do you ask questions in ways that you're going to get the answer that you want without just little things you learn over a period of time. And so looking at journalists and looking at people that are journalists. I don't like Oprah, watching like how Oprah would
she did something right to get there. It wasn't a total accident.
Looking at those things and not just, I don't care about the conversation. How's it being directed and orchestrated?
Right.
And she's a master. I mean, because she was getting people crying for no fucking, like, how did that happen? Like, what did she do there? Because it's intentional.
Right.
Joe Rogan's another one. He's not just winging this shit. Like, this is intentional.
Yeah.
And so trying to figure that out, then I started to learn things just on how people would answer. If I would say, let's say why? Like, why did you do that? That puts people on a defensive. Like, does he think that this isn't right? Where if I would say, how did you come to that conclusion? Yeah. Then there's a better answer with that. So it's looking at how are you framing this question? So researching questions, and then testing it and seeing how that works. Listening, obviously. And as you talked about, it's like you're going down this journey, but here's a hole we can go down. Yep. And then going down that hole, JM was probably one of the first ones that I really, really became very self-aware of this. I'm like, okay, we're on this journey. We went down this hole.
Yeah.
I have to keep going down this hole, but we still need to fucking answer this question here.
We talked about on our trip here this morning, we talked about him specifically. We analyzed things from the point of the interviewer, and we've talked about him, and he is an interesting case of how you interview, because he speaks in a way that's he's just prophetic, like, he's more profound. Yeah, it's just like is more profound than other people, and you treat that differently than you treat a lot of people. Like, he is an interesting interview in that way. Like, he is different, and we highlighted him as specifically someone that's different. I just think it's a funny thought. I think a lot of people would listen. They listen to a podcast with you, and you have Dave Hoff in here, and it's just two powerlifters bullshitting and stuff, and that's what a lot of people listen to us. But I listen, and I'm like, no, you're interviewing. Like, I think of you as a journalist when you're doing that. And it's just a funny thought that that's what we've become too, because I don't think that's naturally my inclination or my personality at all. I'd probably be way more introverted than that, but just how it's developed, and then just the desire for it to be better, you realize, no, is what you're becoming if you want to do this, and you have to start to actually research and try to get better. As you have to
be intentional about it. And Dave's an interesting one, because like JM will go off in those tangents you got to bring back in. Dave, you got to bring back in because he just forgets what he was talking about. Right? So you got to know that. Yeah. Dave's great because he'll say, "Can you reel me back in?" Right now, I look like an idiot if I'm like, "Dude, I don't know what the fuck we were talking about."
But you could do that. Like, if you're interviewing someone and they're responding, but you're kind of trying to think 3 steps ahead, it can almost be difficult. You're in the conversation, but remembering what actually is going on here.
You start to get like a few layers. You're like Inception. You're, what level am I in right now?
So it's intent. Like I said, it's very intentional with that. And then things will go, as anything, things will go wrong, and not bad wrong, but when you're interviewing somebody like this.
Like they're maybe taking too much of a lead, and it's like, we didn't really want to go that direction, or whatever.
So it's like there was a problem there, and then afterwards, I'll take notes afterwards, and it'll be like, well, what is this problem? Because how do I search? That's the crazy thing. Like, what the fuck do I search?
Right. What was what? How do I make that better the next time?
Even GPT can't help me with that. What the fuck is that? And so then I'll start watching other podcasts and looking for that. Like, when did that happen to somebody else? How did they that's how they did it. And then, so that was a big part. The other big part is the research of the guests beforehand. I think when people get into interviewing people for podcasts, they don't understand how much you need to go and vet and listen to, especially if they've been on other podcasts. Yours is a go-to, because as you said, you're not going to ask them the same things everybody else does, but there'll be something in there that either I can do 2 things with. Either I can talk about it, or I can just mention the fact that they have this sibling that used to play soccer. Then all of a sudden they're like, how the fuck did you know that? Right. But then they become more comfortable. Right. Because you got to make them comfortable. Because then once they're comfortable, you can go a little deeper.
The one hack we felt like we always had for getting people comfortable was you'd bring up food in any way, whether it's some fast food chain that's local to them that has some meal that's like, this isn't that good, but we all had it growing up. And like, as soon as you can mix food in the mix, people are like, those were the day. And then it's like, boom, the whole thing just shifts with just one little dumb question like that.
One of my other biggest secrets is it's in a gym.
Right. Yeah. Where I'm here. We're sitting here. Like, I feel like this is like home away from home. It's like, I just want to be in here.
We were joking. We're like, this screenshot right here is just a dumb meme in itself.
Just us two sitting at this table. It's like, what the heck are those guys doing?
This has become so iconic. This look right here.
Well, most of the people I'm interviewing have spent decades in a gym. Most of the conversations they've had with their buddies are in a gym.
Right.
This is their safe place. This is home. Right. So it's way easier for them to relax. I had to do one because it was so fucking hot in here in the conference room. And that was a nightmare.
Yeah, I can see that. It's just different vibe.
Well, in my mind, it was, maybe for them it wasn't so much, but in my mind it was a big clusterfuck, because this is where I interview people for jobs. This is where I have meetings about content. This is where
and they're also like, this is where I get interviewed for jobs in this stuffy boardroom. This isn't a place where you have fun and open up about things.
And there's like my numbers room where I'm talking about finances and shit. Like, this is just weird.
Yeah.
that's, like I said, your podcast is a go-to because it's like, okay, here's this guest. And then were they there? And now just recently, not that long ago, you may have been asked this, what podcast were you on that you enjoyed? Right. And that way I can I'm still going to listen to other podcasts.
Right.
But if they were on a podcast they enjoyed being on, I want mine to be better.
Right.
Right. And
Right.
then they also enjoyed it for some reason.
Yeah.
What did they talk about?
Yeah.
You know, who was the person? What was the dialogue? What was the narrative? And the side benefit of all that is you can, as you're listening to all these things, and I do listen to them like at 1.5 speed, 1.5 speed.
Right.
So you can quickly find this podcast host sucks. Right. This,
Yes.
and that's so often.
Something else we're not to name names on this, but we've been on other podcasts as guests before and made the comment, a couple of them, it's like, we weren't a guest on that podcast. We were on there to be talked at, you know, like it's just like there was an agenda and
like,
we were just
we just need someone to talk to, and it happens to be you guys. So strap in. We're going to talk to you for an hour, and then when it's done, we'll see you later.
Right.
Yeah.
So it is interesting, and we've interviewed a whole bunch of the same people that you have over the years too. So we get to use it the same way. You know, I listen to yours and gives me context. Like Jimmy Kolb, as an example, we had him on recently, and Jimmy is someone that I didn't know that much about. And although maybe we tried to get him into a different zone than you do, but I listened to him on yours and I'm like, okay, now I have all this base understanding. I know where he's coming from. I understand his basic training philosophies, stuff like that. Even if we're not going to get into his training philosophies,
you at least understand
I want to know.
component.
Right. It's I just want to know what's going on with that before we get into even some of our goofy stuff, because it's all a little bit relevant too.
Yeah. And what's some of the other things with the guests I'll have is I may be going down a certain road, but then I quickly determine that their knowledge on that road isn't as great as I thought it was.
Right.
So I need to pivot this in such a way that is smooth.
Yeah.
You know, and kind of get off of all that. And training would be one. So say it's somebody that I really want to go deep into a training philosophy on, and they don't have that depth, right? So it's like, okay,
and as a listener though, if you keep pushing, you notice that too though. You know, when we're on the other end of it, you can tell when the guys that, you know, they're strong, there's no doubt about it, but the way they articulate it, or whether it's knowledge or just articulation, you can tell when they can't express that in a way that's...
Yeah, so I help them. So I'll either help them express it because they have a philosophy, they just haven't ever expressed what it was.
Or maybe don't know the term, they don't speak the same language on it too, you know, like their language of training might be different than your language of training, so it's getting them to just have the right words that make sense for verbalizing training too.
And I will have, with certain things with certain people, I will take the time to make sure we're defining this the same way, volume.
We always say you have volume,
right, because that changes a lot.
Intensity is a good one too.
But it is good because those are things that everyone just assumes their version of that word is the correct one, when people do use those interchangeably at times.
Yes. So it's now with that podcast to pivot off of the interview style and into the monetization.
Yes.
Right. Because that's another mistake. I think people start and just want to monetize. And it's not like YouTube. It's not like you're going to turn on monetization and then there's ads being put in the whole thing.
Right. The most, I think we mentioned it, but we went like 4 years without any level of monetization whatsoever. And we were okay with that. Totally. We didn't get into it to monetize it, honestly. Like that was a shift that happened much later on, but, the monetization is not going to happen early or easy for most people. I mean, I'd just damn near say all people, even if you're a personality at this point, unless you have some huge built-in following and audience, it's going to take some work to start to build that. And then monetization looks like different things to different podcasts. And also that's evolving. I think, I think even large podcasts are seeing that evolving, that the advertisers are changing what people are willing to do or what they think the value is in return. At the beginning, it was a little bit more of the wild, wild west that larger companies might have been throwing more money at it because they didn't yet quite know or understand what was the value in this return. And I think that's changing. We've had conversations about that.
Well, and also even on the technological side of it, like you're starting to get dynamic ad insertion where you're just, selling blank spots and whatever ad at whatever point in time gets filled in there. You don't even know. Well, I mean, that's not where we're at with things. And
YouTube will do that.
Yeah. Right. And essentially how YouTube does it, but like they're starting to do that with actual podcasts with your podcast feed. That's starting to become a thing too. But we've always been of the mindset that if we have advertisers, we want it to be businesses that we believe in, that we can vouch for, that is real stuff.
We have industry relevant advertisers. That's for our podcast at our scale, at our size, that's what we can do to monetize it. That's half the pie. The other half the pie is the supporters. And I think that's what grows with a lot of podcasts right now. That's the shift, I think, too, is where it's might be tougher for some to rely as much on the external support from advertising, where maybe it's actually your supporters where you look to monetize it to a certain degree. I think that's what's growing with a lot of podcasts that we've seen.
And not just podcasts, but when you look at content in general between Twitch streamers, OnlyFans, whatever that is, everyone's trying to get their monetized audience because it's one of the reliable income streams you can count on today.
But we've had really loyal podcast sponsors for like 4 or 5 years now that I think, we have to be realistic about what we're worth too. If we go into it thinking that we're worth, if we have a delusional
$3,000 a spot, like, no, we're not there. That's not where we're at.
Because we understand that it has to be a two-way street.
Yeah, it's not just take.
Well, it's different too because you have a business, and if you were to pay for that ad, what would you want in return?
Absolutely.
So that's actually the way we frame it too. We're like, does this seem, whenever you talk about changing rates or when we were first starting going, we're like, does this seem like if someone else was approaching us, would we pay that? And we're like, yeah, we would pay that.
Yeah. And I don't even want to have an advertiser if we don't at least think we can return it. If we don't think we can provide value in return, especially if it's someone in our industry, which they all are, if Coca-Cola or Bubbly wants to come advertise to us, I might not care as much because I don't give a shit how Bubbly does, but like these industry relevant businesses, I want it to be
we want them to know that we're sending people our way and tell them Massenomics sent you and you should go buy their stuff.
And if it's not, then I kind of feel like a piece of shit about it anyways. I don't want to take their money and them not get anything, not get value in return. So, but that's been our approach. It's industry relevant sponsors, being realistic about what we're worth. And then hopefully, build an audience long enough, you can pull in your listeners to help support the podcast and make it worthwhile for you.
And then there can be sale conversions, which are harder to track, but you can at least guess on what that is, which is it's less than people think it is. But it's there. Yeah. But if that's where they're looking to go, I think the multiple stream concept that you're talking about, so you have, here's ads and then there's maybe limited edition apparel or there's these things feed into this, which if they're going to try to scale a podcast, I think is valuable to know because that should pay for it. The first goal is actually you should start with it paying for yourself, or paying for itself, not including your time.
Right. Yes. Not including your time.
Not including your time.
Yeah. Don't put a value on your time because it's going to get tricky to make
you're
that
fucked, right?
Yeah, right.
Maybe way down the line.
Pipe dream. Yeah. Right.
But and that's kind of easy for you to figure out because if that was the case, then I'd have to take those hours, then hire somebody to do the other stuff that I do. How much would it cost me to hire somebody to do the other stuff that I do? And then that's what that time would be worth, for that.
Right.
But you're living in a false reality to think that you're going to throw it out there and advertisers are going to be knocking at your door because if you need to go get the advertisers.
Right. You just need to prove that you can provide value in some way. And that value is getting people to listen to you.
And sell the ads.
And having an engaged audience as well.
Right. Yeah. And but that's why it so much helps for us to make sure our advertisers are things we believe in anyways. because I want to be able to sell it.
It doesn't feel like a sales pitch.
Like,
it's like, no,
I'm not a salesman by nature in any way either, so I can't really sell something that I think is, I can't. I'm not good at it. So it just has to come from a point of like truth. Like, I can tell you this. If it is,
and if it's organic, then you are good at it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah. It's
just give you a real testimonial rather than reading the pitch.
Tell me about this, because you mentioned it earlier. This lifetime intermediate. What is the concept with that?
This is something coming on your podcast I'm excited to talk about, because I think maybe it's a gap in your usual guess, because
people are like, what are these guys' numbers? What's their achievements of all time? And
right. I mean, and someone might say, question come up like, do you feel like, what do they call it? Imposter syndrome. When you're on something, you're doing something that maybe you don't feel like you really think about it. Like, do I belong? Yeah. And, thought about that before even coming here. We're here, then we're off, doing stuff with, Dr. Mike, also does awesome in the, in this space. He's fun, got a big following, all that. So we're doing a couple really cool, badass things, in my opinion. It's an awesome trip. And, would you say, do you feel imposter syndrome about it? And I really think about it, and I'm like, not to sound arrogant about it, but I'm like, no, I don't, because we have done so much. None of this is by accident. This didn't get here by accident.
We put in so much work, and while maybe we don't have top tier genetics or the best programming or the most time in the world to devote to training and all those things, we've been able to manifest a certain level of success in a different way, which I think we recognized even through the podcast early on that we talked about it before. We are not going to be, if you want to come and find the most detailed training philosophy information, we're not going to talk about it, because we don't come to us. We haven't lived that life. We haven't trained enough people. We haven't been around enough people.
We'll send you to the 5 guys or women that you should be listening to. Don't listen to us about that. There's so much better resources. We want you to listen to them. That's who we listen to. So we send them there in the right way. And that kind of trickles back to this lifetime intermediate thing. And I'm careful about the way I phrase this, because what I've learned over time is I don't want to shit on other people that in comparison, maybe I'm strong. Maybe someone else is listening. So I have like a 1,700 pound raw powerlifting total, which I say is lifetime intermediate. I'm in this, done 5-6 powerlifting meets. I've been between 1,550, 1,700. I waver around in there. And to me, I say that's lifetime intermediate. Well, maybe there's someone that's listening that's been training for 15 years also, that they're about my size. Their total's 1,200 pounds, and they feel like they've been busting ass to get there. I don't want to shit on them and say I'm a piece of shit. So in comparison, the person's thinking, well, if he thinks he sucks, then what am I? Like what kind of garbage lifter am I? And I'm careful not to phrase it that way, but still think in the terms of lifetime intermediate. And training is a hugely important part of our lives, and it has been for 15 years at this point. I haven't not been to the gym 3 days a week in 3 to 4 to 5 days a week in 15 years. I don't not do it, but my numbers don't reflect that of a typical podcast guest that we're interviewing or that you're interviewing that's made it to this top 5% or top 10 in the world. That we're not in that category.
And we've also never been in a position, and I'm not saying this as a knock to anyone, like this is amazing that people can do it, but we've never been in a position where lifting can be priority number 1 in life, not even priority 2 or 3. And so, when you can't have it be one of your top 3 priorities, it's hard to expect the best results. And so, for us, whether it's been career or building this other business or having families, there's been things that, just being completely honest with ourselves, as important as training is, it's not the number 1, 2 or 3 thing right now. And so accepting that level.
Right. And, so I feel like we're in that lifetime intermediate. I kind of like that phrase. It just fits us well, and it kind of goes along with our shtick a little bit. Honestly, like we love lifting. It's never going to not be a part of what we do, but it's all in perspective for us. We understand kind of where it fits in our lives, and we love it, and we love being a fan of the sport. We love talking to people that do it, but I could never not go to the gym. I can't imagine a point in my life. I don't know how old. I'm 36 years old. I don't know how old I'm going to have to be until I could not go to the gym and lift. I just don't know I don't really know how that plays out. And I think it's interesting. That's easy. You expect that if someone's a top level power lifter. Like, how do they ever stop lifting? Of course they're thinking that this is like their life right now. But I think like that, like, how do I can't really not do this. And I'm just a lifetime intermediate. It feels like the average man, that's where they fall in. You know, there's that people that are, it's that much part of their life. It might not be number one. Maybe it's number two. Maybe it's number three. Maybe it's number four, but it's still that central a part of their life. I just think it's, I don't know. It's an interesting or different point of view than when you're aware you're never going to be the best. You're never even going to be in the, you're never going to be above the top 50%, but you still love it that much. And I don't know where I go with that, but it's just, I just think it's an interesting thought to think about.
Like, you don't have these delusions of grandeur.
Right.
Like Tanner's never talked to me like, oh, dude, I'm getting on the juice and I'm going to pull 900.
Right,
like, dude, you're 36, Tanner, and you're pretty busy. Like, if he came to me like that, I'd be like, something happened with you, man. Something's going on up there.
Right. But then all that being said, I still love the numbers. I care about the numbers, and I still, we battle it. We get older, we battle more injuries, just like higher level powerlifters do.
Things suck, or you have, we both have young kids. Like, sleep is just terrible for months on end. But then all of a sudden, what we're talking about, you're like, things are just bad, and then realize one day you just stop and you're like, you know what? For a month or two, things have been going
really
pretty
clicking.
good.
Yeah.
I'm getting some momentum. And then
I'm
changes into another month, and you're like, all right, maybe PRs are here.
Well, then it's like, I might not be done with PRs. Maybe I've done it for 15 years and maybe I've had some big highs and lows, and maybe it's taken different priorities. And then I'm like, you know what? I think if I just keep piecing this together, training's on the right track, there's still PRs available out there. And
maybe that's a body weight PR.
Yeah, right.
At the very least, an age PR. But there is still stuff you can chase.
That's over 90% of everybody that would be on open powerlifting.
Well,
absolutely.
That's what we talk about too, is like, a certain level, everyone loves to hear from the extremes, the best, because one, like, how did they do that? What is that? But part of what's so crazy is it's just not even relatable at all. It's so out there. Where I don't know, sometimes like that's why you like going to the gym, just shooting, just talking with the guys, because we're all in a similar level, but we're all trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to still get better, and we're having fun with it.
And it's you say it's 90% over powerlifting. It's 90% of the people listening to this podcast. Right. Exactly. Right. Most of the people aren't totaling 2,000 pounds, and it's just like
you can look at the numbers.
Yeah, right. Right. You start to. That's another thing where it gets people get delusional almost in a bad, you can get a bad mindset because you get real into Instagram. What's Instagram show you? It shows you everyone, that weighs 190s deadlifting 800 pounds. And like, you get inundated with all these incredible lifts. These lifts are incredible because they're rare. You start to see them all the time because that's what, that's what everyone wants to watch. That's what I want to watch too. But you can get a false sense of reality, and you start to think, well, I only deadlift 650. I weigh 60 more pounds than that person. They did deadlift 800. You know what? 650 sucks. Well, it doesn't suck. If you really look at the open powerlifting numbers, we've done videos on this. You start to analyze it and be like, the percentile you're in is, it's wild amongst competitive
what people
powerlifters.
think sucks. We've talked about this. What people think sucks a lot of times is like, no, you're in the top 30%.
Right.
And we don't even think of those numbers as remarkable in any way. It's like you're in the top 30% of competitive lifters, even not the general population.
Yes.
And that's just how far things get skewed. You get too far in the rabbit hole on this stuff.
I wish more people would look at open powerlifting just for that reason, just to be able to see, because powerlifting, at least in my time in the sport, is way bigger, number wise, competitor wise, lift wise, than it was when I started, and that database is, I don't know, I'd have to look, say 200,000 competitive lifters or whatever it is. It's way up there, where it might have been like 20,000. So it's tenfold. But what's grown more than that, because see, you're looking at open powerlifting to see where am I at, according to that, where there's, we used to, when I started, there were like bodybuilders that competed. Then there would be these people we call closet bodybuilders. So they trained like bodybuilders, but they never competed. They were never like closet powerlifters.
Right.
Now there are.
Yeah.
And there's
sure.
probably millions, and they are never going to compete.
Yep.
But training is one of their top 4 priorities. That's how I define our target market at the company, is people who put training as one of their top 4 priorities.
Yeah.
You put religion, family, work, training. That's still you're not missing your training.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
That's still,
I won't. So, I'll be there at 4:30 in the morning if I have to. I don't want to, but I will if I have to. It's not I might miss a couple days if I have to, but it's not going to become a habit. We're going to be back there.
Or you're going to make it up or combine 2 training sessions you're not just falling off.
Well, the fact is you just love doing it.
Yeah,
exactly. It enhances your life. And that's most people that are out there. So that should be embraced. It shouldn't be like people compare too much to begin with, but if they're going to compare against people that say are on Instagram or whatever, then go compare and look at what your numbers would be on open powerlifting.
Right.
Because in some cases, you're going to be in a higher percentage than what you think. In other cases, you're going to get an ego check real quick.
Yes.
Which is probably good too.
Yeah. Well, there's good and bad comparison. I'm not saying don't compare yourself. You should be wanting to get better. Everyone should want to get better. That's kind of the goal, what you should want to be doing anyways. But I still think for 90% of us, powerlifting is a you versus you sport. You're out there trying to better your numbers, and people can look at it different ways, but that's kind of my philosophy is we talk about this, intermediate lifters, you sign up for a powerlifting meet. I look at two different things that happen. You're the only one in your weight class. You have shit numbers. You win a first place trophy. Okay, great. I got a first place trophy. Shit numbers for yourself.
Yeah.
The other alternative, you sign up, there's 8 people in your weight class. You have the best meet of your life. You get 5th place, but you have your PR total. You don't get a trophy. You don't get a medal. I would take that meet so much more over the medal. Like, we're not in the business of... The contrast is if you're at the world level, you're going to try to win worlds, whatever it takes to do that. You don't care as much as the number. You care much winning worlds, being the world champion. I get that, or the nationals.
Again, we're talking about a couple people.
Right. They're getting back
people need that reminder again.
Right. It's back to the 98% of us. It's numbers of you. It's you're competing against yourself in numbers. It's not powerlifting. There needs to be some competition out there. Maybe it's what draws people and helps to build. But I still think it's a you versus your past self and your future self and everything else. That's what
most do, because the question you just asked when I was competing is a question that I asked almost everybody I knew. Is given the choice, that you have a shitty day and win, or you have a great day with all PRs, but you don't even place.
Right.
Which would you take? Rare. Maybe I can think of 4 people that have told me I'm here to win.
See that? And the people that get a pass on that is if you are, if you're, I don't know, throw out a name, Ray Williams, whatever. If you're going to IPF Worlds, or if you're
or the Sheffield event, and the winner's winning $150,000.
Yeah, if there's money on the line, go win the money, obviously. But those are just such exceptions.
We're talking about an actual handful of people.
Right.
Well, those 4 people were completely a different personality type too.
Right.
They hated to lose more than they liked to win.
Right.
That was a different breed.
Yeah.
That I understood it. Sometimes I get mad that I didn't have it.
Right.
Like, what the fuck? Like, why don't I think like that?
Yeah.
But that's that's the minority of even the top lifters.
Yep.
Where when you said I can't remember what in the complex where
imposter syndrome.
I don't even know what that means.
Right.
So that's one of those things that, I've heard it mentioned a couple of times over the years, and I went and looked it up one time. I'm like, what the fuck does this even mean? So I don't really want to know what it means, because if I don't know what it means, then there's no way I can ever have it, right? So I don't believe in it.
Yeah.
Because, if you're somebody that helps other people, then it shouldn't fucking matter what your squat, bench, or deadlift is.
Right.
If you help somebody else, and a person with a 300-pound squat can help a person with a 100-pound squat, then what exactly is wrong with that?
Right.
It's helping people means more to me than whatever those main lifts are. Now, if they're crazy ass all-time world records, you're helping people because you're aspirational.
Right.
People are like, holy fuck. 2 things can happen. Holy fuck, I would like to be like that. Or holy fuck, you can lift that much.
Right.
Yeah. So maybe I'm not just a 400 squatter.
Right.
Dude squatted 1,100 pounds or whatever it was.
Right.
600 should be doable.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So as long as they keep pushing that top envelope, what becomes doable for intermediates is going to always go up a little bit, because you're going to think, no, wait a minute, that's just half. Like I should be able to do half. Like if I'm showing up and doing all this.
Well, we were talking about USAPL Nationals is just when this is drug tested powerlifting, and the totals are just the advancement of the sport still continues to be kind of wild.
It was when I think of when it felt like things were really blowing up on that side. It was Ray Williams.
Yeah,
squats over 1,000 pounds. This will never be done again.
And then Dennis Cornelius doing his thing.
Yeah, Dennis Cornelius doing whatever. And then all right, here you have Jesus at 24, and he just comes in and he's crushing that total now. Like, all right, that we thought, when will that ever happen? It took 6 years, and then there's it's moving so fast. And the other one too, talking about looking at that level of where you're at and do I suck, and maybe it inspires me more. Nothing gets comments going online like seeing 100-pound women deadlifting and the number of insecure guys that come out when they see this girl that's 100 pounds pulling 400 pounds because they can't do it, and it bugs them at such a level that they got to go in and make a negative comment to somehow restore their masculinity in the situation.
It's engagement.
It is engagement. Absolutely.
It is. Yeah, you just play the system correctly, and it's to everyone's advantage. Then still,
I saw a post. Maybe it was yesterday, and it was the qualifying totals for the USAPL Collegiate Nationals, and it was a slide post. So and I don't know what they were before because I follow all of the sport, always kind of have, but not to that detail. Like I know what was. I had no reason because I didn't compete in that, and I'm not a collegiate.
Right.
When I looked at it, I'm like, holy shit. Like, this is what you need just to qualify for the collegiate nationals that's drug tested. And so my note that I need to go see what it was before, right? Because I'm just curious. But holy shit, they keep getting stronger and stronger and stronger, which is great. I love that because that means, training philosophies and systems are becoming more refined. The people I learn from, help me, then, passes on. But everybody fucks up. But the fuck ups get diluted, each time it gets passed down because there's a lot of don't do this.
Right.
You can try all this stuff, but fucking don't do that. That shit don't work. I know it didn't, and so did the guys before me.
Right.
Don't do that. So you start stripping away all those mistakes, and then they should get better as they come up. The people that are jealous about it, they have their own issues, whatever, I don't even get concerned with all that. Like the guys that you're talking about, whatever, to me, it's just engage. That's why I try to tell the lifters that have problems with comments is like, dude, it's engagement.
Yep. Yeah.
It's better than no engagement.
Dead air.
It's definitely better than like the emoji spam shit that will pop up.
Yep.
That's what, there, let me go through. Tips. You have tips down here, and it's for podcasting. But I want to go tips for podcasting, tips for social media, and tips for apparel.
What one we starting with?
Oh, I think all of them, generally speaking, it's just what I mentioned before. It's consistency, and that's what we do. We live and breathe the consistency. That's for us. I can say that is probably it's not a secret sauce. That's our biggest thing. We post on Instagram 2 times a day, every day for 8 years. We publish a new podcast episode every Monday for 391 straight Mondays. That's what I think we rely on. And then just being true. You got to have a voice that's not bullshit, because if it's bullshit, you can't do it for that long. If you're not talking from something that you feel honest about, that you feel like is kind of yourself, you can't carry on. Nobody can carry on an act for that long. It's you're not going to have fun doing it. And then that's probably our other secret sauce, honestly, is fun.
Yeah.
Everything we do, it's got to be a little bit of, some stuff's work. Honestly, we still got to do taxes.
But at the end of the day, we're doing this because we're having fun. If this really did just, for whatever reason, we decided we didn't like lifting, I don't think we'd do this. We'd figure out something else to put our efforts into to have more fun with it. But we're still having fun, so we're still going to keep doing it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I thought. The other thing about podcasts, I wondered, in your opinion, your podcast is crushing it right now, and our podcast is doing well. And podcast in general, the ones that are doing well are awesome right now. But everything is cyclical. Everything changes. I don't know how many years it'll be, but eventually, I don't know why. It's hard to imagine because we're in it right now. But at some point in time, blogs were what they were. Mm-hmm. They're not now. Like at some point in time, podcasts probably won't return what they do for any. I don't really get it. I can't conceptualize what it changes to or why it changes away from it, but eventually they probably won't be as successful, right? Like, something changes
well,
there.
there's that. And then, I mean, if you're going to get beyond that of things having a shelf life, like to a certain extent, this is also the entertainment industry, and everything in entertainment does have a bit of a shelf. I mean, we go way more into entertainment than what you do. You're doing some more deep digging,
functional,
and learning,
practical,
but also to a certain extent, everything has an entertainment value, and I mean, there's a shelf life on all that. So you got to learn to pivot with some of that too.
I don't know if it's a shelf life. It's the means in which it's being projected.
Right? The medium or the taste can shift a little bit over time.
At the end of the day, if you're just to say what is it, it's media, right? So media used to be just a newspaper some kid was handing out on a dirt road.
Right.
And then it became television. And so, but media has never changed. Communication of thoughts has never changed. That core, how you interview people, how you correspond, what the messages are, all that, influence, all those things, that was, and goes all the way back probably to the beginning of human history.
Yeah.
Right. And so that will never change. Now, how it's going to be communicated will change.
Right.
Who cares?
Right.
Who cares? I mean, if you have the skills to be able to communicate, know the message and all that, all you have to do is pivot to whatever that whatever that's going to be. So it's not that, it's not, that's how I see it because I've lived through it.
Right.
I mean, magazines used to be a thing.
Yeah.
Right. And the magazines were very limited because you get it once a month. Maybe there's 5 articles. There was a point in time we were doing 2 articles every day. Right. And to compare that, that's every magazine before the internet. That's more content than every magazine had. Right. So that change over time, it becomes better. There's pros and cons, right? But there's pros and cons when there's only one newspaper in every town. How do you know that was the truth? It was probably fucking lies too, right? So it's the more that it's out there, the more truth can become out there. So people will bitch about it now, but at least there's different places to go look instead of 3 TV channels and 1 newspaper. Right. So if it is communicating whatever that is, communicating, getting stronger, that's never going to go away. Right. It's now where it can go away is if you become so archaic that you don't see that the means in which it's being, communicated changed, but you didn't. So you're still putting out magazines. That would be the example of it now, right? Then you're kind of fucked. And a lot of people were because they didn't pivot to that. So it's a slow pivot when it turns. So even you don't need to be on the cusp in the early adapter to do that. You can that's actually, to me, it's stupid to be the early adapter. The rewards are high, but the risks are there too. And if you financially have enough to have, pour into it, that's fine. You can be the 5th, 6th. So you can be a medium into it. You don't want to be the last, into it. So that's kind of probably why a lot of us are sitting back and here's threads. Let's see. Let's just wait and see. We've seen shit come before. And it didn't really do much. Where now this seems to be what it is. And so eventually, it's going to not be this 100%. It's, 15 years from now, we may not even carry cell phones. Who the fuck knows what it was? I used to have a Nextel thing,
to our head. And,
hell, I remember having a pager. Then I'd have to go to the payphone. We still communicated, but I can say whatever it is moving forward is going to be, more than likely higher quality at a faster rate, and that stuff.
Have you ever felt pressure? Because you're old school is a term that people might use. I don't know what the hell that means, but someone would say Dave Tate is old school. And sometimes in the old school, some people that are old school might not want to adopt new school. They might not want to make
how we used to do
this is not how we used to do it. And some people might take that attitude. And you certainly have a fan base that's old, old school, you have new school, and you've made changes because out of necessity is what is it. Do you ever feel pressure? Like, if I do this, is this alienating? Is this like shooting the horse that I rode in on? You know what I'm? Yeah, you don't feel.
No, because if you look at old school, new school, let's just use training as an example here. So just training philosophies across the board. The basics are still the basics.
Right.
The nuance, right, which is usually what's more popular, catches eyeballs, it catches attention. The nuance changes all the time. So if somebody's my basics as far as training philosophy goes is the same as everybody else's, and that's 90% of all of that.
Right.
So as long as the person understands these are the basics, this is the nuance, then I can have conversations with people on any training modality,
right,
and understand exactly where it is, because the basics are still the basics, and this is just nuance. So let's not really talk about that, and let's talk about these other type of things. And it plays into that. There always are going to be those people that, oh, you're selling out for whatever that means,
right,
or you lost touch with the audience, or whatever this is going to be. My reply back is, well, have you supported us?
Right.
Because if you've never supported us and you've never purchased from us, then we've been around 25 years.
Yeah.
Then your voice, to be completely frank, doesn't fucking matter.
Right.
Because what matters are the voices of the people that have supported us.
Right.
That's where I care the most about. The stuff on the fringes, you're going to test that to be able to pull it in, and stuff like that. But I'm moving forward. No matter what it is, I'm moving forward. If they're not cool with it, fuck it. They can go do whatever they want to do. I'm still moving forward.
Right.
That's just life. That's how it is. I think people get lost in nuance for everything.
Yeah.
Right. And even with those, if I have conversations with those people, training modality wise with that, and we start peeling things back, they start to realize this is just basic. And powerlifting is a weird realm, right? It's weird for a lot of reasons from a business side. The competitive powerlifters are such a small percentage of people who purchase from us.
Right.
It's insane.
Right.
It was 5.3% when I actually pulled the database, right? So you got to kind of keep that in mind, right? That's what that is, but that is where I come from. But sometimes I would say, I'll use an example of the people that may have pushed against me for, you came from West Side, you've lost where you came from because of that. I'm like, well, you understand I did fucking train for 15 years in 3 other clubs before that.
Right.
So if you want to talk about where I come from, it was them. This was just part of that journey where I do believe you should always remember that, as you move forward. You can't say, that didn't exist. It did, but it's part of my bias. And so are all those other things where as you get older, you have to understand this is my bias, right? Which means it's very negotiable, right? Because it's a bias.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's the most negotiable.
Yeah.
Right. All the other stuff is not negotiable because it's basic fundamental shit. It kind of plays into all that. So if somebody else doesn't want to evolve, then fuck them. I don't really worry about all that because in most cases they weren't supporters in the first place.
Right.
So ask me that 15 years ago.
Did you always have that attitude, or did that take time to get there?
No, it took time to get there. You learn, as you get older, you learn that what are we really doing here? Like, who am I really communicating to? It's if I'm speaking to you, who matters most in this conversation right now? You guys do, not me.
Right.
Those things. Yeah, it took a while to be able to kind of figure that out, but you do. Right. Because when you look at the grand scheme of the things, just because if I'm putting other people first, I'm still putting myself first, because there's more gratification in that than if I put myself first.
Right.
It's just, maybe it's a stoic philosophy or whatever it is, but I don't worry about that.
Yeah.
It's maybe at some point, I did, but if here would be my advice for people, if that stuff bothers you, then look really, really close at what tribe you're in, right? Because yes, that probably would have bothered me while I was training at Westside and I was there, right? Because this is my tribe. This is what I'm a part of. Fuck everybody else. This is what we do, right? So I would have no problem with that. But that you're not in there, then once you're not in there, then you're part of a bigger tribe, right? Because it's out there. Powerlifting's got a lot of different disciplines and people. And the thing that I wonder with powerlifting is when I look at, and I don't know fight sports that much, so this may be incorrect. But if I look at fighters, MMA fighters, they love to follow wrestlers. Wrestlers follow them. They follow boxers. They follow all the different disciplines, kind of fans. And they're not following it to the point that's detrimental to what they do. But in this powerlifting world, you got certain disciplines, a raw lifter who may not even know the names of people who are the best geared lifters and vice versa. Like, why is that, but it doesn't exist other places?
Right.
It's powerlifting,
Right.
So you all do the same things, and so that I don't really know the answer to that, but I like to try to break that, by having those different people on.
Right.
Because I've always kind of followed from the outside, who's doing what are they lifting? This is, they're fans of the sport, without spending all day, digging into the whole weeds, the whole thing, because in each one of those things, there's different ways that training exists. How can you use that here, this here, business the same way?
Yeah.
I don't know if that really answered the question.
No, that does for sure. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Do you ever feel like you've heard it all? Do you ever feel like training? I've heard this all. I've heard every variation of this. I'm just hearing someone's own unique take on it. Or do you still feel like I'm getting new stuff all the time?
Sometimes I think I'm getting new stuff. Like I do pay a lot of attention to that.
Well, no, I know, because you dig so much on people's training and you're just so meticulous about it. And I just think, does Dave in his brain, this is just a variation of that?
For like programming an organization, that's my number one passion.
Right. Yeah, and I can tell.
It's my number one passion. So I love that. So there are things that I think, when I see it, like this is new, then when I dig into it, it's like, it's really not. It's just a different name for a different thing, but it may be applied a different way. And there's still, if you go back, far enough, what works. Right. So there can be, new things that come up and all that other kind of stuff, which you can play around with a little bit. Yeah. But the shit that works still works. So there is, the science evidence based all. I'm not going to criticize those people, but at the same time, there's anecdotal evidence to prove a lot of things that may not supposed to work, even if it's placebo. Yeah. Fuck it. I'll take a 200-pound PR placebo effect. Yeah. As would most other people, with that. So I don't want to say there are no new things, because, but I haven't really seen any at the base level. What I've seen is things being explained better ways, right? Yeah. Which that to me is awesome, right? Because it can go, an example I can use is when I was first started getting online, I would, teach a lift or cue somebody a certain way. And that was based upon everybody that I've ever worked with. But then when I would start doing seminars and getting out and dealing with people that weren't, Gen Pop or top lifters or whatever it was, the cue didn't work. And then it's like, well, why is this cue, like arching in the squats is the example I like to use. So I tell people arch, because most of the people I ever worked with had fucking erectors that looked like 2 liters. Right? And so then I would go to a gym and see somebody with this stupid extreme arch. Right. What the fuck are you doing? I'm doing what you said I should do. I'm
arching, yeah.
Like, oh, fuck, maybe it shouldn't have been said that way. Right. So the internet's really helped with that, because what may have seemed at the time like, man, he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about, because somebody else is seeing, how that was misinterpreted. Right. Yeah,
it plays the game of telephone too, where it just gets bastardized.
Yeah. So from then it's like, okay, cool. There's a different way to communicate this, and each new generation is going to have a different way to communicate it as well, which that I like, because things are becoming, and on one side more concise, and then on the other side obviously more technical, so they can sound smarter to be able to, because they think it makes them position better. But that concise part on the other side is like, wow. Or sometimes it will be, I never thought of that. Like I didn't, like Dan Grigsby, the hook grip is like, what the fuck? You hold it lower in your hand? Like, what the fuck? I didn't know that. That makes sense. So those type of things, I'm always learning new stuff with that, because everybody's figuring things out at a faster rate, which is great, because then you got to figure out, is this applicable to you? Right? Most likely it's not.
Right. A lot of times it's not. Yeah.
You know, so then that becomes that battle of you saw so-and-so do this, so now you want to do that.
Yeah, I might not get to do what Dan Grigsby does and have that work for me.
But you're the forever intermediate.
Right,
you know,
right,
so
right,
it's not going to be the same way.
Right.
But I think that just gets better over time because there's more voices out there. And the people that learn how to look at those voices and kind of peel it apart and say they need to stop looking at what's different and start looking at what's the same with all this, especially with the younger lifters, because they'll find their favorite lifter. Say, man, I think I should do this. Like, well, okay, we'll go find 10 other people that are kind of built your way and see what's consistent with how they all do this. And then come back.
Right.
And then you found gold, you know.
I just don't want to miss asking this before I forget. This has been a reoccurring topic on our podcast. We've been asking everyone this lately, and I can't wait to hear your answer. You have someone walk into Elite FTS gym right here. You've never seen this person lift before. You don't know anything about their training history. You have no idea how strong they are. Your goal is to be able to most accurately gauge their strength. You only get to see them perform one lift, one exercise, and you want to walk away from that being able to have the best overall picture of gauging how strong that lifter is. You only get to see him do one exercise. What lift would you have him do to best be able to try and make your picture of what this lifter is? So you can say, how strong are they?
Good question.
We've heard a lot of different interesting answers on
about
that.
Every answer possible on this.
Well, I'll tell you how I'm processing this right now. I'm stripping technique out of everything. Right. So there's a lot of lifts that I'd like to see, but the technical failure is going to take it away. The squat's going to take it away. I don't like the bench because now you're not really gauging everything. It's just the upper body. Right. I don't like the deadlift because the technique, again, is going to take that away. So now I'm thinking of variations. Like if we could deadlift maybe off block, so the bar's a little bit higher, then we're going to remove that technical aspect a little bit. Maybe that might be, but if they're structurally better fit to be able to do that, that wipes that out too. So if it's maybe like a yoke bar or a Mars bar squat that's a little bit above parallel to now their torso can't be that limiting factor, kind of give it that. I don't even know if if this was actually happened. So if I have, when I do the train your ass off events and stuff like that, and then people come in, I'm looking at their gait, I'm looking at their confidence, I'm looking at how they carry themselves, I'm looking at their bone structure, I'm looking at how big their joints are. Right. I'm making that determining factor from that. But if it's a lift, man, that's a fucking tough one, man. I would almost be tempted. Fuck.
We've had some heated debate. Some people get heated on this too.
You've actually talked through this better than almost anyone we've had answer this so far.
Because now in my brain, I'm going through machines. Like a hack squat or something like that. But now you're stabilizing too much of the torso.
Right. You start to be able to justify it in different ways too. And you start to say, what really defines strength? So you talk about the technique and, like the back squat is something we've talked about quite a bit in this scenario. And I'm like, well, maybe being able, what is strong? What is strength? Because maybe having the prerequisite technique, is that a part of the fact? What do you define as being strong? Is that part of what is being strong? Is being able to have the strength?
You know what? I think if I'm to narrow this down,
but do you also just assume that everyone has a baseline? There's the assumption is that someone completely off the street that's never trained,
or are we talking someone that's lifted
a baseline level of fitness?
They've been to the gym. They've lifted.
That's another way you can take the question that skews it.
I cringe saying this because I don't like the movement. I don't like the movement at all, but I'm leaning toward a trap bar deadlift or like a rickshaw type of farmer's walk thing.
That's something that we kind of hear coming up more often, actually, than people that like some people that have really.
We recently had a farmer's carry,
high handled farmer's carry.
Yeah.
The trap bar deadlift is an interesting one. I do not like.
Well, I don't like them at all.
Right. But it's still, you think about
safety,
it, right?
I mean, it's easier to keep the spine neutral. Yep. Their breakdown's going to be a little bit less. It's, man, that's what I'm going to go with for now, but I'm going to reserve the right to change my mind.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah. Did you have any other ones? I like that.
Yeah. We do have some other here. This is a really important one. This has been another heated. We're going to help you to settle some overarching debates we've had for years now. Where are we at in the gym here?
In the corner.
Right. I'm looking for a piece of equipment. Was that is that
right in front of the plate?
Right behind the yellow bench.
The glute ham raise reverse hyper type thing, or
I'll say it's not a reverse hyper though. Yeah. Do you have just a dedicated the first thing you said?
The glute ham raise?
Yeah. So what do you call what is that machine?
I call it a glute ham raise.
The machine, you call it a glute ham raise.
Yes.
And I know you do call it that because that's what on your website.
Yes.
That's what you purchase from Elite FTS is a glute ham raise.
Yes.
It's not a glute ham developer.
No.
Then to you, it's a glute ham raise.
To me, it's a glute ham raise. It's always been a glute ham. I mean, I guess that you could say calf ham glute, right?
Is that the original?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the original.
Well, the original is a pommel horse.
Okay.
Right. I mean, that's how it was originally done, was on a pommel horse. But I call it calf ham glute because I want to see the toe press in to be able to contract the calves, and then the hamstrings to pull up, and then the glutes to finish. Yeah. Now it can be, I don't know what the other companies call it, but there's a different name that they call it. It's not GHR. It's a different acronym. GHD.
That's what they say.
Yeah, glute ham developer.
Right.
Yeah, I've never gone with that. I've always just kind of gone with what it was before.
So you're saying GHR is more original than
predates
GHD. Yeah.
Okay. And I've wondered sometimes why, because the other. Sometimes I wonder if some of these names have changed because when I have a glute ham raise and it says glute ham raise and it was on our Facebook store, it got dinged because of the word glute.
Really?
So then it had to be GHR.
Oh, right.
Because they think it's, some thing.
Interesting.
Podcast wish list. Do you think about it like this? Is there anyone on your like a personal wish list that you're like, damn it, I want to make this one happen? This is a top priority, or anyone that you just be dying to get on here, and
anyone across any industry,
right?
If you could.
So you don't think about it in those terms necessarily.
No, I have thought. Okay. Is there somebody that I would really, really want?
Yeah,
and there's not.
Because you have us today, so
I just fulfilled it. I just had it. Yeah, I mean, fuck, we just
mark it off.
Yeah, there's the top of the mountain, right? I don't know where to go from here.
Yeah,
fuck, it's all downhill.
Yeah,
but no, I haven't, because it's there. If there is a name that would come, then I'd be like, man, that would be good, but it would probably suck, and it wouldn't be what I want it to be, because it's going to be too scripted. Sometimes strength coaches can be this way, and sometimes professional athletes can be this way because compliance is an issue, so they have to be very different than if you were podcasting with them that you were not recording. Right. So that eliminates a lot of people, right? Just because it's not going to be good. It's just going to suck. And then from that, I don't even bother thinking about it. And from there, so no.
Yeah. We talk a lot of meaningless geography on the podcast. We say we're from Western Northeast South Dakota. We talk about being from the Midwest a lot. Some people thought it was an odd thing to say that South Dakota is Midwest, but we consider ourselves very Midwest. Is London, Ohio, Midwest? Are we in the Midwest here? Is that a term you would use to describe where you live?
I'm not even sure I can tell you what states we border with. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
I've never really thought about it. I don't care. I think I think
that wasn't the question. We didn't ask if you cared or not.
Man, I don't know. No.
Okay. Mark that down on record.
Do you have a region that you would consider Ohio to be a part of then?
Are you in the East?
I don't know if it's there. I think it's like in his own fucking realm,
like Rust
right?
Belt or something.
It's definitely Rust Belt.
Yeah,
I mean,
right,
if I was to characterize it, it's Rust Belt,
right?
100%. Michigan would be, what's that?
Appalachia.
Yeah. So the Rust Belt is how I would, 100% Rust Belt.
Okay. That's important.
That
your words carry a lot of
here.
weight here, right here, and this is these are like years long.
Debates. If you were to look and kind of split it, like, is this really West? It's where does West start? I would think like the Mississippi, right?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say Ohio is where the West starts.
No.
I wouldn't even say that's where the Midwest starts.
Maybe the people that wear cowboy boots and shit might say so.
Right. Yeah. Okay, you answered most of our most recent hard hitting topics. I think that
so.
the GHR. I knew you were going to say GHR, but I just wanted to get it on record because we have lived closer in the camp of GHR in the past, but we get some heat on that. They say the exercise is a glute ham raise, the machine is a glute ham developer.
Well, I can see why.
Yeah, right.
I know why. I mean, there's some companies, that's what they sell it under that name of. So that's what it's going to be. I've just, ever since I've ever known it and have ever supplied it, and when I was getting it from Louis back then, it was just always a glute ham raise.
Okay. So. Good.
Yeah,
I'm glad we got that.
That's always how it's been.
Yeah.
Any other topics that you wanted to go over?
Man, I don't know.
Yeah, we hit on it. We ran our first powerlifting meet this year, and we were pretty pumped about that. We kind of talked about it, so we don't need to dive into it. But we're excited. We think we'll hit up another one. Probably just the way everyone does it. Try and do it bigger and better. We're not meet directors, and we're not going to live in that space. But we run. We bring in a meet director to direct the meet, and we do the other stuff. And we took this philosophy this year where sure, there was a meet, but we brought in...
What is the other stuff?
Well, that's the other stuff is...
The marketing, the venue, just understanding how lifters should... do you go into a meet with the idea that... And there's two different approaches. Do you go into a meet with, all right, this is something you do on a Saturday for a few hours?
Right.
Or is it, this is a whole event for this community to get together and have a party and celebrate what we're doing?
When all our lifters came in on Friday to do weigh-ins, we had an itinerary for them and a map of the town of Western Northeast South Dakota. And we said Friday, so they came in on Friday mornings, did weigh-ins. Friday night, we had the pre-meet party, where that was at a designated location.
Tanner's house, we had
backyard. We had 100 people.
They showed up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. So it's spotters, loaders, competitors and
spouses,
everyone,
girlfriends.
and we have these cheesy name tags that everyone's got to put on when they come, and we do this meet and greet.
And even there, half these people had never met in real life. A lot of them didn't even know each other. Well, you have the party. Everyone has name tags. You get to know everyone. The next day you go lift. You already feel like you're lifting with your buddies.
Right.
Yeah. And there's people you've never even known before.
No, we had 60 people compete in this meet that were all... It was like lifting with 60 of your training partners at this point. It's like, I'm pissed. Like, I've done a lot of meets before. I wanted to do that meet so badly.
It really felt like we were sitting on the outside.
Right. I mean, it was so damn fun. Like, missing out. I mean, we're running it. We're part of it and everything. But there's being a part of it, and then there's lifting in the meet. If you're not lifting in the meet, you're not, that's like the bond there when you're actually a competitor, I think. But then, so they do the meet, then we have the Saturday night party after we got the biggest bar in town, that's exclusive for
the official after party. They had welcome on all their TVs. Welcome, Lift Hard, Live Easy Classic competitors.
Yeah, and then Sunday, the nice part about having a gym, we're able to use it for different things. So Sunday morning after that, it's the kind of the social at the gym, like where people could come lift and just hang out, BS, do whatever they want. Because there's a lot of people there that weren't competing, but they still wanted to come train. But basically a group training session for anyone that wants to get in on that. And Thursday night there was actually evening meal too. So
people were flying in Thursday. We're like, oh, they're flying in. They're not going to want to do anything. And then all of a sudden we're getting messages. People want to meet up. Talk,
what we found is we only scheduled out Friday morning through Sunday morning. This next year, we need to schedule out Thursday night through Sunday afternoon. And because everyone wants so it turns into, so that's what we do. That's really what we do. The marketing, we put up cheesy billboards. We've done like 5 billboards for Massenomics. None of them make any sense for us to have a billboard in Aberdeen, South Dakota. We put up billboards about our podcast, but we put up a billboard about a powerlifting meet. Doesn't make a lot of sense. We do that stuff, but really what we're doing is turn it in from powerlifting meet to like this 3-day long
festival.
And we call it the Lift Hard, Live Easy Classic, because it's kind of what we believe in, where it's like, yeah, we're doing this meet. We're gonna lift hard. This is a serious sanctioned powerlifting meet, where we want to see people hit PRs, lift big numbers, do all that. But the other 50% of it is live easy. So we've got these days in front and behind it where we want to have fun.
So I wouldn't say that's a powerlifting meet. I would say it's a powerlifting event with judges.
Right.
It's a
right.
Massenomics event.
Yeah.
Right? That's awesome, by the way.
Yeah. And
and we had 250 some spectators watch it too.
Yeah.
It exceeded what we thought. It's a lot of stress and work to put it on. Part of it could have been nice if it would have tanked and we'd say, oh, good. We definitely don't have to do this next year. Now what we have to do this next year, it's bigger, we're more lifters, a second platform. We're looking at adding a strongman event in there and stuff too, not overshooting what we're capable of it, but grow it a little bit and make it bigger and better. And like I said, we got these people from 20 different states and 3 different parts of Canada to come to the middle of nowhere to do this. And the response from so many of them, and then these are people that have done a lot of powerlifting meets before.
Some of these guys have done 20 plus meets.
Yeah, and they go, that is uncomparably the best meet I've ever done before. It's just like, I haven't, this might seem excessive, but there are people like, I have never done something that resonated as much with me and was like more of who I am than that 3-day.
Well, you made it an experience.
Right, right.
Where did the Lift Hard, Live Easy come from?
That was just, it was back in the day, in the earlier days, we were trying to all right, all these shirts have sayings on it. Into the void, all this stuff. We're like, we don't have any cool sayings.
Yeah, what is what the hell is our voice?
And we can't do this crazy badass stuff.
No, we're not
a brand for us, So we're like, what fits us?
Well, you have a skull on the
shirt. Right. But he's drinking, but he's drinking out of a beer hat. Yeah.
We're like, what fits us? We're like, well, at its most basic, we lift hard. And we live easy.
Yeah, we like to
go to the gym, get the work done, but we also like to go out, have some beers, have a good time with our buddies.
Yeah.
And we're like, when we said it, we just thought that fits it. That fits it.
It was a moment where it's like, that is it. That's exactly what we've been missing. And then we put it on shirts and all that stuff, but it really more is like the overall philosophy of the company.
And that's when we were trying to think of what the hell do we call this meet? What is it going to be? Is it the Massenomics Classic, the Massenomics Showdown?
Whatever words everyone else uses on every single meet.
It's gonna be
like the meat is half of it. Yeah.
That is what this is. Let's just call it that. And it summed it up perfect.
No, I think that's awesome because it's like I said, to me, it doesn't sound like a meet. It's an experience with judges, which is amazing.
For sure. And then trying to do other things there where it's like, we joke all the time, powerlifting awards, there's way too many damn awards. So our thought is, no, we're taking this. There is too many awards. They're ridiculous all the way past this. Now we're going insane. There's going to be so many damn awards for this. People are going to be like, so we got, championship belts. But what I really liked, we did some of these custom awards, just kind of arbitrary awards where it was most masters. So we're giving this out to the person that really embodied the oldest son of a bitch here lifting today. That's just who's busting out all the creams and all the salves and doing everything it's taken to piece together a lift here. You get the most masters award. So they get their special plaque for that. It's we had 6 of those.
Best package.
Yeah.
Who brought the total package?
Well, that could be what they looked like in their singlet. Right?
There's a lot of ways you can take that one.
Exactly. And then we had to go along with it was hardest lifter, easiest liver. It's just kind of these goofy things, but people are also
took a lot of pride in winning those.
Too. It was fun.
Most bloated.
Yeah, that's the type of thing. And now we're already thinking what are the awards next year? We can't just do the same ones. We got to have new ridiculous awards to win.
Oh, you have to change them because people are going to start striving.
Yeah, they're going to prepping for the. You're like, no, I'll show them who most masters.
Silliest goose. Silliest goose was one of them.
Yeah. So that's kind of that's our vision on that, and that's. As of late, that's been our biggest change of something we're doing different. And it's just a community builder. We talk about the community stuff. It's the ultimate community builder, but it's just a lot of fun. So I'm excited to see where that goes, honestly.
So Instagram would be the best place for people to find you guys?
Yeah, check it out. Instagram. Look up our podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. That's the other thing, I think, right? Then Massenomics.com, right?
Yeah.
Massenomics pod. Massenomics podcast. Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
pretty easy.
Type it in.
Pretty easy to figure it out. Yeah, I'll tell you what.
You got to learn how to spell Massenomics.
Funny story.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to find the podcast that you guys were on, and yours fucking keeps popping up. You know, everywhere I search is like, oh, you're like, that's not what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Go buy a drink spotter.
Yeah.
That'd be the last thing we'd pimp.
Yeah,
I love seeing the drink spotters here in Elite FTS.
Yeah, there's 2 on the table, and there's
Yeah,
over there.
sprinkled all over.
I had to throw all over the place.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts?
No, I think this is awesome.
What
This
an
is a
experience.
this is a bucket list.
I'll still never forget the day I got the message from Tanner as the screenshot. And I think it was from you, and it says, "Want to be on the podcast?" And I'm like, "Is this real? Like, what's going on right now?" They can't believe it. So this is it does feel like a bucket list item for sure.
This is awesome.
This does just feel surreal, like a dream. Still, it doesn't quite hit yet.
Anyone that we appreciate everyone that's followed along with us for your listening. If anyone decides to check out anything, we appreciate it. We really do, like, honestly appreciate this opportunity, every opportunity anyone's given us, and just like everyone that wants to follow with anything along with anything. It's just cool. We think it's pretty awesome. So
Well, thank you guys for coming out. Support these guys. Guys, we're done. This is Dave Tate from Elite FTS. Last year, we partnered with Ken Kanakin to co-host the Swiss Symposium. It's built on hypertrophy and sport medicine for strength athletes and practitioners to come together in one place, which will be the Columbus Hilton at Easton. You are going to learn how to level up your training based upon the success and failures of others. You have to stay on top of your game if you want to be able to make the success and move forward at the pace that you want. Just to name a few of the presenters that will be presenting, we're going to have Matt Winning, Brian Carroll, Eric Serrano, Jim Wendler. That's just a few. These experts will be presenting on low back injury and prevention, exercise selection, as well as a business, steroid recovery, and restoration panel. If you want to network with one of the experts that we have presenting, we're going to have people there to be able to help you do that. To register for the Swiss Symposium, go to the elitefts.com website, look for the banner on the homepage, click that, we'll see you there. One of the ways that you can support the podcast is by purchasing or picking up our limited edition apparel. The shirt that I have on right now is one of the only shirts that we brought back for a second time. Normally we'll never do that, but the only reason we brought this one back for a second time is it sold out within 6 hours. So we brought this one back. We also got a second one that we just dropped. It's our, I guess, just Halloween edition shirt. Go to elitefts.com or go to the link in the description. This really does help us out because this directly supports the Table Talk podcast. Thank you guys. Enjoy the show.